What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 253. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line, as with every single week, the Brinoceros, Brian Wong.
My first Khans draft. I remember it like it was yesterday. Oh, it was yesterday.
Yeah, this is very, very new format still. Format officially released, well, tomorrow as we record the show. But of course, when you're listening, it will have already been released probably. But yes, exciting stuff. And we're going to cover every single rare and mythic rare in this show. Before we do, we got a couple of quick things to talk about. The first one, of course, CardKingdom.com. They are the sponsor of this podcast, and what a great place to go to buy Magic cards. If you need singles, if you need sealed product, if you need various Magic paraphernalia, you can find it all at CardKingdom.com. They offer solid, fair prices. They really do on both the sell list and also the buy list. Like when they buy cards from you, they will give you good deals. I've sold a bunch of cards at Card Kingdom over the years and always been impressed by their buy list prices. Plus, you can get 30% if you want to trade for store credit as well, which is a huge bonus. It kind of gets absurd how many booster packs and stuff you can get if you want to trade in your old rares. They also ship very quickly and, of course, stand by their product. They've got the best customer service in the business, and that's just a few of the reasons why we highly recommend checking out CardKingdom.com.
Marshall?
Yes.
I just traded in a pile of Stormbreath Dragons and Ashioks and got myself a box of Conspiracy.
Ooh, is that going on your wall?
It's going on my grab bag stash. Really excited to have that. So thank you, Card Kingdom.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that more people should do that so that they can run drafts back, have their friends over in that. Before we get into the meat of the show, I did want to mention once more, we started a Patreon. We started it last week, and it's off to a great start, and we're super, super happy about it. I put in a lot of work over the last few months getting everything ready for the Patreon, and I'm really happy to see that it's been successful in the early stages, and I want to say a special thanks to everybody who already signed up and really kind of got it going. It means a lot. You can find more information on patreon.com/limited resources. You can also find the link, of course, at lrcast.com. We'll be talking about that more in the coming months as we move forward with it. But for now, I just wanted to say thanks and to remind you to go check that out. Okay, let's dive in, Brian. We have no time to waste. We've got a long show ahead of us, and we really want to make sure that we bang this thing out and get everything that we can in a reasonable amount of time. So before we do, though, we got to set the stage. Rare, mythic rare set review. We're going over every single one, and we're even going to be grading them.
Yes. We use a grading scale similar to the one you'd get in school. So A's are stone cold bombs. These are cards that, win you the game, the vast majority of the time that you cast them, just good in many, many situations. These are like the best cards in the set. B's are cards that actively pull you towards their colors. C's are cards that are like the pawns of limited Magic. They're fairly interchangeable, and I think your selection of C's is largely going to depend on what the needs of your deck are. They're not going to be key cards to your deck. D's are cards that I would consider playable, but I would prefer not to play them. But I'll run them every now and then. And F's are cards that I just don't consider myself casting over the entire course of the format.
Okay, and of course, since we're doing the rares and mythics today, it's pretty normal for these to get bumped up a little bit, right? Like the grades that we see on this versus last week's show will be a bit higher. Right.
I think we only had one card in the A range on commons and uncommons. We had a fair amount of Bs. This is a pretty powerful set. But we'll see far more A's and Bs today.
Especially considering that it's a gold set. And we'll talk about that when we get to the gold cards. For now, though, let's begin with white. We're going to start with white, and we're going to go straight down the line. So we'll go white through the Wooburg order, then the gold cards, and then the artifacts and lands. So the first card on the list is End Hostilities, which is, I think, going to be a pretty important one for Constructed, but I'm curious to get your take on it for Limited, Brian. It's 3 white for a sorcery. It's a rare, and it says destroy all creatures and all permanents attached to creatures.
Right, so in this set, the only thing it's going to nab besides creatures is equipment. There's a couple of equipments that this might kill. This is a Wrath. Historically, Wraths have been pretty good and limited. If you've been paying attention to the show at all, you know that I will give this a higher grade than Marshall will.
Yes.
I just really value cards that can win you games that very few other cards could. And a Wrath, especially one that's, reasonably costed at only 5 mana, this can do that. Also, when you when you look at Wraths, I think once you get up to 6 or 7 mana, it's very hard to set up a value Wrath, which is just like you just basically sandbag your first couple of turns and then just fire it off for whatever 2 creatures they have or something like that. The expensive Wraths tend to be just, fail safes. You only cast them if the situation is really dire. But cheap Wraths at 4 or 5 mana, you could frequently set up, without giving up too much damage in the meantime. And I think 5 mana is a real sweet spot for that. I think that's the threshold between 5 and 6, where you could realistically maybe just play 1 creature on turn 3, skip your turn 4, and get a nice, 3 for 2 or whatever it is on turn 5.
Yeah, I think this card's quite strong. I also think that the fact that there's morphs and multicolored spells around makes this a little bit better because people will maybe have invested more mana into their cards and you can get more tempo out of it as well. There's things like Outlast that people are dumping mana into as well. And I think that all of those things help out make End Hostilities a little bit better. What did you give it? This is the litmus test now because I have my grade.
I gave End Hostilities an A-. I think 5 is a huge difference from 6, and I think this is going to be one of the best cards in the set.
Okay, yeah. So and as predicted, there's a gap. I gave it a B. I think it's so. To keep it brief, the main reason, like Brian, everything Brian said is true about the way that we view these. The thing that I don't love about them is that you can take a lot of damage in the meantime, and it requires you to hit your 5th mana on turn 5 to really get the full value, which doesn't always happen. Also, more often than not, your opponent gets to be the first person to reload their board, and that can set you back on tempo where like they untap, play a 5 or a 6 drop, and then you have to play something and they get to be the first ones to attack you again. So sometimes you don't end up quite as ahead. And also the fact that they don't do anything if you're trying to, if you're winning. And that's, I think, a downside. Like if we put them on the quadrant theory, this is actually, usually we say, well, any card that you draw when you're winning is good. This is actually a blank. This is one of the few cards where it's like really bad when you're winning. And, sometimes you need one more card that could be almost anything to punch through that last piece of damage. And this isn't that. And so I have to give it a ding for that. But overall, the thing I do value and the reason why I give it high grades like B's, B pluses in that range is because it brings a unique effect to the table that's very hard to play around and is the raw power level of a card like End Hostilities is hard to match. There's very few cards in the set that are going to be just rawly powerful. Like this will win you games that you could never have won with any creature in the set. And that unique power level, pushes it up into the range. I mean, I'll be taking this early and playing it as well.
The Mardu are a very hostile clan. You'll be happy to have this against them.
I don't know. You might just be dead.
You can get to 5. Your life total might be dwindling, but yeah, this is one of the few cards that can beat a good Mardu start. That's
true. I mean, I guess my argument would be, yes, you can get to 5, but you are going to have to play your own creatures. So while you can reset, like I don't know, that this necessarily just like wins you the game when you cast it.
Right.
Okay, why don't we move on to Herald of Anafenza. So this is a 1-drop. It's white mana for a 1/2 human soldier at rare. And it's got Outlast for 2 and a white, which is pretty pricey. We've seen Outlast be quite a bit cheaper on commons and uncommons. So I'm a little dubious about 3 mana to Outlast this Herald. But whenever you activate its Outlast ability, you get a 1/1 white warrior creature token.
That's a warrior, so that's important with a lot of the synergies in the set. At first, I was a little bit skeptical of the Herald because it just didn't necessarily seem like a great way to spend your early turns, spending 3 mana to get a 1/1. But with even 1 activation, the Herald itself becomes a 2/3, which is a real nice size in this format to tussle with morphs, at least until they get to 5 mana, and you get a 1/1. I think this is a pretty good deal. I mean, it's not necessarily that you're going to go all in starting on turn 3, but even just 1 activation makes it a very relevant piece of combat, something that you would have spent your 3rd turn casting anyways. So I think this card's solid. And then once you get to the late game, it's obviously a great thing to have in play.
It's just a factory. Yeah. I think this card's really good. I don't think it's pushed incredibly hard. The Outlast for 3 is a little bit like there's not that perfect curve where you're like Herald of Anafenza, go, turn 2, put a counter on it, make a token, go. Like you don't get that ridiculous sequence, but I don't think it really matters. I think that long game this card's good, and in the short term it's good enough. So I like Herald a lot.
Yeah, I do think, a good draw, an aggressive draw, a draw with evasion can beat Herald, So it's not like this is like a one-man army. It's going to need some support to win most games.
Yeah.
But it's a really good thing to do if your draw is kind of lame. Like, at least you have something to spend your mana on.
I think so too. And I also like the fact that it's really good on the quadrant test too. Yeah. Like it's actually good in all. Like sure. even if you're behind, it's not bad. Like it can help you stabilize your board. If you're ahead, it helps you win. If you're at parity, you can build out an advantage where you get a huge creature and a bunch of 1/1s. And if you're developing, well, it's a powerful 1-drop. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I gave Herald of Anafenza a B.
Yeah, I gave it a B+. I just feel like one mana is a sweet spot. So.
All right, next card, High Sentinels of Arashin. This is a 3/4 bird soldier for 3 and a white.
This card is absurd, by the way.
I
need to get that in there before you read it.
It's a 4-drop. It has flying.
3/4 flying for 4, sold.
Mm-hmm. High Sentinels of Arashin gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. And in case you were wondering, how am I going to make that happen in a set that already has tons of outlast and ways to get counters? High Sentinels, you can spend 3 and a white to put a 1/1 counter on target creature.
You can just throw counters around at instant speed. It gets bigger when you do that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the creatures get bigger. You can even put them on itself, though there's rarely a point to doing it because you want to spread them around to your other guys first so that it gets big. On top of it, it crushes the vanilla test as a 3/4 flyer for 4.
Right.
This card is just, to me, one of those perfect rares. It's easy to cast. Like, it's 3 and a white. Like, it's cheap. It's not multicolored. It asks nothing of you. It's great on offense. It's great on defense. It's great at parity. It's really solid when you're behind. Like, High Sentinels of Arashin for me is just one of those perfectly efficient cards.
Yeah, it's super easy to cast. There's only the single white in its mana cost, which is going to make it a much better first pick than most of the 3-color cards. And it has great synergy with the format, just being able to put 1 counters on your stuff with Outlast. I actually have nothing bad to say about High Sentinels of Arashin, except it is not Umezawa's Jite. That's the only knock I have against it. I gave it an A.
I gave it an A. I think that you're looking at one of the best rares in the set. And I think that if you want to try to compare it to the 3-color rares, go for it. But this is going to compare pretty well and be infinitely easier to cast.
Okay.
Next.
Master of Pearls.
Oh, yeah.
This is a 2/2 for 1 and a white, human monk. It's a rare. It has Morph for 3 white, so 5 mana to turn face up. And you might ask, well, it's still a 2/2. Like, what do I get out of it? When Master of Pearls is turned face up, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn.
So bad. Have you ever heard of Overrun? Like, this is along those lines. This card is absurd.
Yeah, it's Overrun on a stick as well. So, even if you don't have other creatures, at least you have something. And just to fill your curve, sometimes you're just going to play. I am sometimes just going to play this as a 2-mana 2/2.
Sure. It is just this card, to me, is along the lines of the one we just talked about, in the sense that it's just like it asks so little, yet the upside is so high.
Right. Yeah, and obviously,
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, there are a lot of creature tokens in the format. This is like a really good way to synergize with them. But it's just going to make your opponents blocking it, it's going to make it a nightmare. A lot of times on a board where you have 5 mana and you're attacking with morphs, your opponents will block your non-morphs because those are the safe things, and Master of Pearls will still flip combat in your favor.
Yep.
I think that's really sweet. Deal a bunch of damage to your opponent in the process. It's just a sweet card to have in any deck, no doubt.
I think it's great. I gave Master of Pearls an A.
I gave it a B+. I think it's quite good, but I think if you're in a losing scenario, it's not much better than just your average card.
Yeah, but it's funny because that's why I gave it an A. Is because it holds its own in any normal card scenario, and then also just wins you the game sometimes.
Absolutely, and yeah.
Wingmate Rock is next. 3 white for a 3/4 creature bird with flying. It's a mythic. It's got raid. When Wingmate Rock enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, put a 3/4 white bird creature token with flying. So you basically get another one. Mm-hmm. And whenever it attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking creature.
This card is absurd.
I was recently asked to do a short video or audio segment where it was like, give us your best rare, uncommon, and common in the set. Mm-hmm. That'll come out on Gathering Magic sometime soon. And spoiler alert,
Yeah.
This is what I picked for best rare in this set.
That's not crazy. You get 6 power, 8 toughness with evasion for 5 mana.
It's like impossible to race.
Yeah, with additional upside on that. I mean, you're just, even if you have to, you're just suiciding whatever, some lame creature to get the raid bonus on Wingmate Rock. Like, it's very hard for this card to be bad. Even if you're losing, it's like, man, even just in the scenario where you can't raid it, a 5 mana 3/4 flyer is going to do you a lot of good. I just can't say anything bad about it, really.
Yeah, I actually, I'm actually giving Wingmate Rock an A+. I think it's the best card in the set. And I also, the thing that pushed me over the edge from A, because I think normally this would be the most rock solid A I could imagine, but it's actually that gain 1 life for each attacking creature thing, because it makes it just very difficult for your opponent to race you when you make 2 3/4s that they can't realistically attack into. And then when you get to start attacking them, you start gaining 2, maybe 3 life a turn. And it just puts them in such a terrible position. No one card deals with this on its own, right? Like, it's not like if they have Murderous Cut, they're just out of it. Like, they're gonna get the 3/4 token anyway. And assuming that you can get raid going. And I think it's just like upside with more upside. So I gave it the highest grade I can. I gave it an A+.
I think a turn 5 Wingmate Rock with raid is basically unbeatable.
And we've seen that raid is easy to get.
Yeah. I also think it's the best card in this set, so I guess that makes it an A+.
Okay. What about the next card? Oh, that was white.
That was white.
White has
absurd rare
houses. Like, this is ridiculous. And hostilities, which, like I said, even though I didn't give it as high a grade as Brian, it does have the highest potential, I think, for being the most powerful card in limited in the set. Yep. Herald of Anaphe, going down the line, they're just powerhouses.
Yeah. Great.
Wow,
great
these
card.
rares are insane. Yeah.
Blue?
Yes, blue. Let's start with Clever Impersonator. So it's 2 blue for a shapeshifter. It's a creature. It's a 0/0 though, so that probably hints you as to what it does. It's a mythic rare. You may have Clever Impersonator enter the battlefield as a copy of any non-land permanent on the battlefield.
So usually you're copying creatures, which makes this a clone, essentially.
Yeah.
Clones in limited, and it's very important that it can copy your opponent's creatures. Because clones that can copy your opponent's creatures basically allow you to cancel out whatever bomb they have. Because usually their bomb creature will just trade with your bomb creature in combat. If it's a dragon, it'll trade with a dragon, etc. That makes it pretty important. So it's maybe not quite as good as removal or as consistent, but it still has that potential. But also you can just double up on your own great thing. In addition to that. So, I mean, clones, I think, are very solid and limited. I think they're attractive cards, but, never as good as bombs themselves because they require something else in play.
Right. I'm a big fan of clones. I think I'd pick this very early. The double blue's an issue, though, right?
Yeah, it is. For
Not
sure.
a huge one, but like it takes a little bit of a knock for that.
Yeah.
What'd you give it?
I gave Clever Impersonator a B.
You gave it just a straight up B?
Yeah.
I might change mine. I was going to go B-, but I actually really like clones a lot in limited. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go B as well.
It's pretty cool because if you copy a raid creature, you might get the raid bonus too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
copying bombs, yeah.
Unfortunately, if you copy an Outlast creature, you don't get the 1/1 counters it had on it already. So,
no.
So maybe in that regard, it could fall behind in that type of arms race.
And if you copy a morph, you can't flip it, right?
No, you have a very lame.
It just stays that way forever.
Yeah, that actually makes the Impersonator not a very good early game play. Is that it actually the things that it can copy? It's actually just straight up worse than.
Yeah, like if you're on the play and your opponent goes turn 3 morph and you're like land 4,
yeah,
go. Yeah, that's a little awkward.
I'll stick with B, but maybe you might have been right with B-.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm on B. This next one, Brian, love this card. Dig Through Time. 6 blue. That's right. 8 mana for an instant at rare, but it's got Delve, so we can reduce its cost. And what you do is you look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them in your hand. So you're getting 2 cards out of it, but you're getting some serious card selection, and then the rest go on the bottom in any order. So this is not a Delve enabler. It is a Delve card, but you're not going to get to dump all the rest of them in your yard or anything. But geez, getting 2 out of the top 7 at instant speed, that just seems so powerful.
You're going to get something good, I have a feeling.
I mean, you're going to find that bomb or that removal spell or whatever.
Right. I mean, I would play Dig Through Time in any deck that had enough blue mana to realistically cast it, whether or not I was going all in on Delve. But this is one of the best things to delve up, because it's just going to feel you. It feels like Sultai decks are like an engine. Like once they get going, they just like get, like they get more and more powerful, right?
Yeah.
And this is the card that's just like, it's just fuel, it's just going to like keep you going. You're not going to be done casting spells for days.
My goal is to dig through time finding Treasure Cruise.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, how would you compare Dig Through Time to Treasure Cruise?
I think they're roughly comparable. Like, the mana cost is the same. So you're getting similar delve things going. 3 raw cards off the top versus 2 of the top 7. I would rather have 2 of the top 7 than 3, of my top cards, but it's in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
I don't think the Dig Through Time is like a huge step up over Treasure Cruise.
That's what I was feeling as well. I think my grade will reflect that. But
yeah.
I do think it's an excellent card.
Yeah, I gave it a B-. Like, look, it doesn't affect the board. It's 8 mana. It takes a while to set up. This isn't the kind of thing that you just windmill and just like, well, if I win the game or whatever. But it is very powerful, and I can't imagine leaving it out of a deck where I could cast it. Yeah,
it can be slow and cumbersome, and if you're getting beat down, it's not going to be what saves you. Right. I also gave Dig Through Time a B-.
Yeah. What about this next one, Icy Blast?
Icy Blast. This is an instant for blue and X. Tap X target creatures, and if you have Ferocious, so if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, those creatures don't untap during the controller's next untap step. Icy Blast is like the best falter effect that they've printed in a very long time. This will lock down their entire team for 2 turns, which usually means if you have something with 4 or more power and another creature or 2, you can just kill them.
The thing I want to ask you about is the difference between the 2 modes, right? Or maybe they're not modes, but you know what I mean. Like one of them gets the things that like base, and it's better than Falter, right? Like let's be clear. This is an instant, so you get to do this on their turn, so you're not taking damage, and you should be able to get in. Mm-hmm. But it feels like if that was all it did, I would be like, this might make the cut sometimes, right? But with the Ferocious part, that just seems like how can they ever win the game if you get that off?
Yeah, I think in sealed deck especially, Icy Blast is just one of the best cards you could have, because it just in any stalled game, Icy Blast is just a game winner. But having enough ways to get the Ferocious bonus is key, because it's a fairly unexciting card without that. It's still a playable card, but not anything special. With the Ferocious bonus, it's a game changer, and frequently a game ender. And even like if you're on the ropes and you have the Ferocious bonus, you might be able to, buy enough time that you can dig out of it. But for the most part, you're using Icy Blast to close out the game. And if you have any kind of decent start with the Ferocious bonus, this will do that.
Yeah. I like it. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, and honestly, after playing with the set a little bit, I feel like Ferocious is a little bit bigger deal than I originally thought. And just having some of those Grizzlies or whatever it is to power these things out can really change the game. I gave Icy Blast a B+.
Okay, I gave it a lower grade than that just because of its conditional nature. Like the thing I don't like is being way behind, like not Ferocious and kind of getting beaten down. So I gave it a B-. So we're actually a little far away, but God dang it, this is going to be the BCSM card of the set for sure. Like people are going to send us screenshots of like, oh my God, like how did I win this game? This is how I won this game.
Right. I mean, even if you just see like Alpine Grizzly and like some random morph, you cast Icy Blast, it's excellent.
Yep, that's true. All right, wow, that is true. 6/6, and then this is like they're so far behind. This next one, Keru Spell Snatcher, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 Naga Wizard at rare, but it's a morph, so you can pay 4 blue to flip it up. And when it's turned face up, counter target spell. Because remember, morph happens at, even faster than instant speed. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Okay. Mm-hmm. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled.
Oh, man. Anything you get with the Spell Snatcher is really sweet. And I believe if you counter a morph, you get to cast the card face up.
Yeah, that's what Joe said.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal because there's a lot of morphs. Honestly, the thing that I like best about the Spell Snatcher, which is kind of weird, is just the fact that you can play it as a 3-mana 2/2, or you can play it as a 4-mana 3/3, depending on your mana code needs.
It's in blue. It's a Hill Giant in blue. Like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of times, against any kind of a beatdown deck, the 4-mana 3/3 is actually very well positioned to stop them. So a lot of times you're just going to do that. But then if you have the Spell Snatcher in the very late game, it's still excellent. So I just like that no matter which turn of the game you're playing it on, it feels like it's a better than average card.
Right. I think this card's excellent. Now, we should note that the morph cost at 6 mana is a lot.
Right. All you need is a slight board advantage, a situation where maybe like they can't attack you and you're hitting them with a flyer. You can pretty safely leave up the 6 mana every turn and just force them to play something. I really like that. You don't need that big of a lead to make this a blowout.
Yeah, I think this card's sweet.
Yeah, it's quite good, and like I said, versatile, which allows it to function in more quadrants.
Yeah, and it's just got that upside. Mm-hmm. That upside. So what'd you give it?
I gave it a B, but it might be higher than that.
I gave it a B+. I'm a sucker for 2/2 for 3, 3/3 for 4, 6 mana, blow you out. Like, that's all just really good.
Yeah, that is quite
These
good.
rares have been insane. Next is a Mythic. It's Pearl Lake Ancient. And it's 7 mana. It's 5 blue. It's a 6/7 Leviathan with flash that can't be countered. So this is all pretty interesting, right? 7 mana, can't be countered, has flash. It also, somewhat randomly, has prowess.
Lame.
Which is like, I mean, I guess you needed your 6/7 to become a 7/8. In the last turn of the game or something. And then on top of it, it's got this activated ability that's really weird but kind of cool. You can return 3 lands you control to their owner's hand to return it to its owner's hand.
Yeah, so that's just going to allow it to, dodge any type of removal. And considering how big it is, it's going to be the most likely target for removal.
Yeah.
Once it's down.
Especially because it can't be countered, so that's not happening. So it's like, yeah, you're going to want to murderous cut this thing if you can.
I think this is our first rare or mythic that's not in the A or B range.
Oh, really? You have it lower than that. I have it in the B range.
This is a 7 mana creature that just exists on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down late, and like you said, morph. If I can, have a morph that becomes a 6/7, like that Loxodon or whatever it is. Why am I playing that card that doesn't have morph? It's just worse.
I see. You're saying that the upside of this card doesn't outweigh the flexibility that you get from the Loxodon guy, for example.
Right, because...
No, that makes sense. I mean, this thing's just straight up stranded in your hand all the way till you get to 7 mana.
Yeah, and there are a lot of matchups where 7 is a prohibitive amount of mana.
No, you're right. That is true. I think the best ability that this card has is Flash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you can actually get a card out of it, and we're talking serious cards here, right? Like they bash with their 4/4, and you just gobble it up. They're 5/5. They're 6/6. You can just eat it.
Right, and being a mythic means your opponents are unlikely to play against it until they've seen it from you.
I actually had it in a draft deck already.
Yeah, it does seem cool, and I like that it's like a fairly reliable win condition, but still just gets like blanked by a Death Touch creature.
Yes,
that's very frustrating for a 7-drop.
Yes. Mardu Hateblade, boo.
Right.
What'd you give it? So you gave it a C+? Is that?
I gave Pearl Lake Ancient a C. I honestly don't think it's anything special.
Okay. I gave it a B-. I think the flash and the ability to get a card out of it does help justify getting up there, but this is nowhere near A range for me. Even though, look, I mean, it's got a lot going for it, but like you said, in this set, the flexibility is a big game. Like you being able to cast your creature as a 2/2 morph is just such a huge deal for not dying. And and I value that too.
I mean, it has a lot of abilities, but they're nice to have, but none of them make this card a game changer. None of those abilities are game changers. And I think when you play a 7-drop, you kind of need, a little more oomph.
Okay. What about Thousand Winds?
This is Fat Mahdi, Mahamadi Jin impersonator. This is a 5/6 flying elemental for 4 blue. That's
sold.
That's Mahamadi Jin. Yeah, absolutely. I'm already in. But you have upside on that because you also have morph. And the morph cost on this is more than its mana cost. The morph cost is 5 blue. So 7 mana to turn face up. If you read that right, you're going to get some additional upside, and you do, because when you turn Thousand Winds face up, return all other tapped creatures to their owner's hands. Now, there's a couple ways that you can use this. So you could just flip it up on your turn, assuming you had the mana and they had already attacked you, and just send back everything that they had attacked, and then you get to get in with your 5/6 flyer. I mean, that's tempo. Like, that is
ridiculous.
Yeah, that is, you were ahead, now I'm ahead, and you're going to die in 3 turns. It's going to be really hard for them to get that attack force back down and try to race this thing. You could, try to ambush them too, just like, wait for them to attack, get it in their attack step. Thousand Winds seems really sweet, and a lot of times you're just going to hard cast it on turn 6 for 6 mana and get a 5/6 flyer bigger than anything else in play.
Yep. I love this card. I love everything about this card.
I think it's quite good. It's versatile, and importantly has morph, so you can just play it, if you're mana screwed, and actually get a blocker out of it.
Yeah. I gave Thousand Winds an A.
Yeah. I give an A.
Did you give it an A-?
I give it an A-.
How could you? I was going to, and I'm like, but it also just has morph. Like, these cards are so good. It's like the only knock on a card like this normally is like, it's a 6-drop. So there's going to be those games where you just kind of get bum rushed and they've got a bunch of tokens and you don't want to be. No, you just cast it as a morph. Like, these cards are just too good.
Yeah, it's quite good.
I'm a huge fan.
Blue, not quite as bomby as white, but these are all, very playable cards.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the power level so far. Black, Bloodsoaked Champion. I don't think this guy's quite as good in limited as he may be in constructed, but let's take a look. It's black mana for a 2/1 human warrior at rare that cannot block. But it's got raid, and so if you've attacked with a creature this turn, you can pay 1 and a black to return it to the graveyard. From the graveyard to the battlefield is what I meant to say.
Right. Bloodsoaked Champion's cool because it triggers itself. Attack with it, they block and it trades. After combat, you just spend 2 mana to return it to play. That's awesome, right? Like, this thing just attacks with impunity into stuff with 2 or less toughness.
I just always think about, like, in terms of limited, I think about non-ideal scenarios.
Sure.
So you don't have this on turn 1. It gets so much worse so quickly. And then on top of it, it doesn't block. Like, if you find yourself behind.
Yeah.
I'm actually just not a big fan of this card for limited. I don't think I would cut it from my black deck. Don't get me wrong. But I am not excited by this. Like, you have to really be a best case scenario mentality, like all-star, if you think this card is like super great or something.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's a bomb.
Yeah.
It's also cool because it's something that you can just send in the mid to late game to get raid without losing something you actually care about, and then either get it back this turn or get it back on a future turn. The other thing with Bloodsoaked Champion is it actually plays kind of it does a lot of cool stuff in a Sultai deck because you can get it into your graveyard through alternate means, and then get it back into play for value.
No, that's interesting.
It's not a bad deal necessarily.
Yeah, I would want to mainly be playing this in an aggressive deck, though, not in like a grindy Sultai deck, I think. But hey, if it's for free.
Yeah, I think it's worth playing in that deck. And like I said, a lot of the decks in the format are going to be hybrids. You're going to have maybe a Mardu deck that has some elements of Delve. Like, it's going to have maybe some
Scavenger
Secret,
yeah.
So you're gonna have a couple of incidental ways to get cards in your yard, and maybe if you flip this up, you get additional value. I think that's really cool.
Okay, yeah, I think this card's fine, but I'm not giving it a high grade. I gave it a C, or I would even go C-. But I thought, well, there are definitely some really aggressive decks that'll find good use for this because there's some nice tricks. So I gave it a C.
All right, I gave Bloodsoaked Champion a B-, but I think that's with the understanding that you're not playing it in most of your control decks.
Okay. Ooh, this next one. I think John Laux might have had a seizure when he first saw this. Empty the Pits.
This card is the Pits.
It's black, XX. I don't think I've ever read that particular casting cost on the show before. And it's an instant somehow that's mythic with Delve. And you get X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped.
This is the weirdest card in this set.
Like, run me through just like a quick. So, like, what if I have 8 mana, no cards in my library?
Okay,
or graveyard.
I'll tell you what I did because I wrote this down. I'm not going to try to figure out on the fly, right?
Okay.
So if I have 6 lands in play and 6 cards in the yard, I can get 4 zombies. that feels like a very middle case scenario.
Yeah, that feels like I could do that right now.
However, 4 of those lands have to produce black mana. That's difficult. And I think in a set where you're going to be playing 3 colors almost every time.
4 of them.
Yeah, I mean, Delve cannot reduce the colored mana component of this, and that's just going to be very, very difficult.
God, I guess now we know why we saw Urborg in M15.
Right. So
because we don't have it in limited, this card seems uncastable almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very powerful ability.
Yeah.
It's just, and I understand you can fill up your yard very quickly, but that doesn't get you the black mana symbols and the mana cost.
No, you have 2 different tasks. And then, of course, the downside of them coming into battlefield tapped is a big deal, right? Like, you don't get to ambush things. That would be, in limited, that would be the absolute best, right? As they attack you with a bunch of, morphs and whatever, and you make, say, 3 or 4 tokens at instant speed, and you get to have some favorable blocks that they didn't see coming. And you just don't get that. This is a card that you need 1 extra turn if you're on the defensive beyond the time that you actually cast it. And obviously casting it's a big deal. I mean, it's very difficult to cast spell. So I want to love this card, Brian. Like, I really want to love it, but the black is just like a stop sign for me.
Yeah, if they made the card cost black 2XX, which would be the same converted mana cost, but just easier on the mana requirements, I think it would actually be very good. But as it is, I mean, what percentage of your black decks would want Empty the Pits? It's a low percentage, right?
I mean, if my mono black decks all want it, like the thing is, I want to go for like Sultai value or for Mardu beatdowns. Like, I'm not looking, like, I don't know where this fits. I guess it's supposed to go in Sultai, but the blue and the green cards also go in the Sultai deck, and this just horns out all of them.
It just doesn't seem feasible in any matchup where you don't expect to see turn 13 or something like that.
Right.
So as such, I gave Empty the Pits a D.
I give it a D also. I'm so sad, Brian. I want to give it like an A- or something, but black is just untenable.
It's
so a gold set. It's a so 3-color gold set. Like, come on.
I mean, normally if I was playing a card with quads in my mana cost, I would want 13 plus lands of that color.
Like if this was in M15, for example.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, in this set, that doesn't seem possible.
Right. And think of other examples from the past too. Phyrexian Obliterator Unlimited almost never saw play, and that was in 2-color set.
Right.
It's just too hard to cast. Grim Haruspex.
I don't know. You're the expert. You have the pronunciation guide, Marshall.
I do actually have it now. They send it to us. I haven't read it yet, though. 2 and a black for a 3/2 human wizard at rare. I like that. 3/2 for 3 and black. That's kind of interesting.
That's a Rough Rider.
Yeah, it's also got morph for black. So you can play it as a 2/2 and then morph it up to a 3/2 for black. So you're not really getting anywhere there. But whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card?
That is very powerful and feels... I mean, I don't know if you play Hearthstone, but this card's Cult Master, and I like that card a lot.
Wow, this card seems sweet. What's up with the morph, though?
So
is it for deception value?
Exactly. The very cheap morph cost, I mean, while it increases the total cost of your card, and obviously you could just hard cast it in any situation where you could morph it and then turn it face up, allows you to do it during combat, either after they block or after you block, and just be like, oh, well, this is a trade, and normally both players are happy with that. However, when you flip this up and 4 creatures die and you draw 2 cards, you're happy and they're not. So it's just for deception. Exactly. The ability to do it at instant speed during combat. Well, it's going to change your opponent's plays, mess them up. You can do it in response to their removal spell. There's all sorts of ways, and you don't need to do a lot to make this card ahead of the curve because it's already a 3-mana 3/2. I also just like.
I see no downside here.
I also just like hard casting it sometimes and bashing in. It's a very powerful card. Doesn't ask a lot of you. I mean, it's not going to win you any games on its own, but it's going to have a pretty material effect.
Yeah, I think this card's just super sweet. Jeez. I like it a lot. I think this card's great. Like, cheap, doesn't ask much of you, has some cool morph shenanigans if you want them. I just think this is great.
Yeah, I gave Grim Haruspex a B.
I'm giving it a B+. I like the upside.
It has a lot of upside.
A lot of upside, no downside. I'm in.
I mean, honestly, how many cards you need to draw with it to make it excellent? Like 1 or 2.
Yeah, 1. I mean, because it's not like one of those enchantments where it's like, well, if something dies, I'll get my card back, and then if another one dies, I'm up a card. Like, this is beating down.
Yeah, and it's not one of those lame utility creatures. Like, this thing can fight above its pay scale too. Like,
yeah. You know. Although I will say I think it would have been the Stone Nut if it was a 2/3 instead of a 3/2. But anyway, all right. Necropolis Fiend is 7 black, so 9 mana for a 4/5 flyer. You may have figured it out. It's got Delve. It's a demon at rare. So, you can cast this for 5 or 6 or even 2 black mana if you get real late in the game and with a bunch of cards in your yard. It's also got an activated ability of X colorless mana, tap it, exile X cards from your graveyard. Target creature gets -X, -X until end of turn. What?
This card can go so many ways. Obviously, if you have a way to power it out early, you're just going to be attacking with it mostly, and this is going to be your clock. This is going to be your reward as you get the 4/5 flyer. Late in the game, if you can afford to play the Fiend out without delving away your whole graveyard, all of a sudden it's Visara or whatever it is, and it's killing a whole bunch of stuff and getting you card advantage. I could see this winning you very different types of games. I think I quite like it, and it's just a nice thing to have, like a nice ace in the hole, knowing it's in your somewhere in your deck, and if the game goes long, this can take over.
Yeah, I think Necropolis Fiend is great. I am still a little intimidated by 9 mana. Like, sure. I live in a world where I probably have 3 cards in my graveyard, but that's about as optimistic as I get on your average case scenario. I don't plan on casting this for BB very often.
Right.
But I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, it feels kind of weird that if you want to get it out super early, you can't really abuse it that much because you're just not going to have that many other cards left in your yard, and it's going to be hard to spend a lot of mana. And a lot of times you just want to be attacking with your 4/5 flyer rather than tapping it.
Yeah, that is one thing that they don't do that often is put powerful tap abilities on good attackers, but occasionally it pops up.
I like cards that scale with the state of the game, though, and this card gets more powerful as the board gets more complex and the game goes longer. I don't think it's quite in bomb status, though. How about you?
I don't either. I'm wavering between B and B plus. I'm going to give it a B plus. I think that its ability to take over the late game bumps it just above, your average, call it 6 mana, 6 lands type 4/5 flying with a great ability. So I give it a B plus.
I gave Necropolis Fiend a B, but I feel like my calibration on when you can cast a 9 mana delve spell is far from complete.
Yes, agreed. Like I said, I'm giving myself 3 cards in the yard. We'll see if that's accurate. What about Retribution of the Ancients? What a great name.
This is an enchantment for a single black mana, and it has the ability, black mana, remove X +1/+1 counters from among creatures you control. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn.
Oh, thank God we finally found a bad card. I was starting to get worried they didn't make any bad rares.
It looks cool though, right, Mark?
Yeah, and look, I'm not even I'm just saying at least this isn't just you pay some amount of mana and get all upside all the time, right? I mean, I think this card sucks, but I haven't really thought it through enough, I suppose. What do you think about it?
So first on the surface, what is this card doing? I think it's intending to go in the Outlast deck, right? Where you're just be like, okay, I have a couple of things that can Outlast very cheaply. And then I don't fall behind in the game because I can just spend 1 black mana, remove those counters, and just kill whatever you have. And I could see that taking over game. They're definitely in the best case game, this card's excellent.
Yes, it is. In the grind it out. And to be fair to the Outlast deck, its purpose is to make the game go long and grind it out. So, that's another bonus point. It's not like it's like throw this in your Mardu deck, right? Where you don't want to be casting this at any point.
Right. Obviously, I think your deck has to be built around Retribution of the Ancients before you'd even consider it. It's not like, I incidentally have 3 or 4 ways to get 1/1 counters. It's very unplayable unless your deck is just totally stacked.
Right. What'd you give it?
I just want to say one more thing about it first.
Oh, sure.
Even then, I frequently find that it's not really worth removing your own stuff just to shrink their stuff because you can just do that in combat. It's like if my creatures are big, they can just trade with your big creatures very easily. It's not like I have to put a card in my deck just to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And the only benefit this has is really Outlast, where it's like your creatures are tapped and it removes that downside. But I gave Retribution of the Ancients a D. I think I will not play it that often.
I'm going to give it an F.
Okay, I think that might be a little harsh.
I think it might be too, but I feel like taking a stand, and I don't think that we're ever going to run this card. My gut says that while I can't imagine scenarios where it would go, I'd set the over-under on times I play with or against this card in the format, especially, given that it's rare, I guess matters too, but even then at like 0.5, and me saying F is me taking the under on that. If I took the over on it, I would probably give it a D or a D minus. But I just think too many things have to go right for this card to be really great.
Time will tell. I mean, I'm not in love with it for sure.
Yeah. All right. So that's black.
Significantly less balmy than the previous two colors.
Absolutely. Way less balmy. Bloodsoaked Champion is whatever. Empty the Pits if you can cast it, which you can't. Retribution is highly conditional. Yeah, way worse. Let's take a look at red, though. Ash Cloud Phoenix is... This card's kind of cool, actually. I didn't like it at first, and now I do. 2 red for a 4/1 flying Phoenix with no haste. It looks like it has haste, though. It's a mythic rare, and when it dies, return it to the battlefield face down. Which brings us to its next ability, Morph, 4 red. So you can turn it face up for 4 red and turn it back into a 4/1 with flying. And when it's turned face up, another thing happens, incidentally. It deals 2 damage to each player.
Right. So, I mean, just to reiterate what it does.
Text.
You get a 4-mana 4/1 flyer. When it would die, it becomes a face down instead.
Yeah, 2/2 morph. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. What would you pay for, I mean, like how good would the card be if it was a 4-mana 4/1 flyer that said, when this dies, put a 2/2 into play? Pretty good, right?
That's excellent.
That's a really good card.
I really like that. It's good on defense. It's good on offense. I think that's great.
Yeah, and this card's significantly better than that.
It is.
Because your 2/2 has the ability to turn back into the Phoenix face up again and punch them in the face for 2. Oh, this card's excellent.
This card is literally Thragtusk.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not literally.
Yeah, 5 life is a big game. But, you know, Ash Cloud Phoenix is just... Yeah, like you said, great on offense, great on defense. It blocks 2 things essentially.
Yeah.
In your very worst case game.
Yeah, and a 4/1 flying blocker is going to kill almost everything.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. I just think it's great. Like, I think if you open it, you're going to be first picking it. I think you're going to be pretty happy with it. If the board's stalled out, a 4/1 flyer will make short work of their life total. On defense, it's good. On offense, it's good. Like, it's just, you feel bulletproof. Like, if it's going to die, you just, I get it right back again. And then maybe in a few turns, I can even turn it right back into you have to do this all over again stage.
It just gets you a 2-for-1 as well. Like,
it's going to be super annoying.
I gave Ash Cloud Phoenix an A.
I'm going to give it an A-, and I have no reasoning for that. Next.
Just wait till you play against it and see.
No, I mean, whatever. I gave it an A. Like, it's still a great card. Crater's Claws. Red X. Sorcery. It deals X damage to target creature or player.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, Blaze. Yeah, so we've got a red X spell. Now, there's another ability which I'll read in a minute, but I want to get a quick check-in here. Where does that rate for you?
I have never passed that card in my life.
It's just unpassable.
I've never passed it in my life.
Splash for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So already we're talking about a highly graded card, and there's upside. It's got Ferocious. If you've got a creature with power 4 or greater, it deals X, so the same amount, plus 2 more damage to that creature or player instead.
So
you just get free rolled 2 mana, basically.
So basically, like, the way that I look at these X burn spells is they're scalable removal. If you just need to kill a utility creature, okay, you can do it for 2 mana. If you need to kill a morph, you can do it for 3 mana. If you need to kill a big thing, you can do it for maybe 5 mana. It's just good in any situation. But it also has the mode kill your opponent.
Kill you!
Which will frequently happen once you start to get to 7 or 8 lands, where you could just Crater's Claws them to the dome. And with the Ferocious bonus, it's even just more damage. I think it's very good, and I do not see myself passing it.
I'm the same. I gave it an A.
I gave it an A too. You just don't pass X
It's
spell.
just not passable. Flexible removal that can kill your opponent's just too good.
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for a couple of lands to add it to whatever deck I drafted in, because I think it's worth it.
Yes. Dragon-style Twins. This is a 3/3 human monk at rare for 5 mana. It's 3 red. So a 5-drop that's a 3/3 But I will say it's got double strike. So this is a potent threat right off the bat. And it's also got prowess. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1 on top of that.
I would recommend blocking Dragon Style Twins.
This card's scary as all heck, right? I mean, how, like, attack with my Dragon Style Twins. Like, what in the world are you supposed to do?
It represents like an unbounded amount of damage if you let this through. You just cannot do so.
No. But then what blocks do you have that are great, you know?
Very, very few. The only downside I would say to Dragon Style Twins is that the turn you play it, it's not the best blocker in the world. Because anything with 4 toughness can usually, at least trade with it. And it also dies to a lot of the removal. Like it's a little bit overcosted as far as just how big the body is.
Yes.
So it's a little bit vulnerable. But that said, it is one of the biggest threats in the format. It just can deal so much damage.
Combo, become immense.
Sure, you're dead.
That's 20.
You're dead. don't tap out.
Yeah, don't do that.
Right.
It's like bang, you're dead. Like that's just a two card. If it gets through, they're just dead. So, like I agree with you about the removal thing. So that's a knock on it. But a threat this potent for a reasonable mana cost has to get a pretty high grade. I gave it a B+. I didn't quite put it up into the A range.
Yeah, I gave Dragon Style Twins a B+ too, and just due to its susceptibility to removal that a lot of true bombs don't have.
Right. Howl of the Horde is next. It says it's 2 and a red for a sorcery. Remember that. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So that fork, going all the way back to the old days of Magic. But wait, there's more. Raid, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you get another copy.
2 copies.
Can choose new targets for the extra copy too. So you can triple a spell for the low cost of Raid plus 3 mana and Howl of the Horde.
It's so hard to do that. The setup cost on this card is ridiculous. You have to have something that you want to cast.
Right? Like this isn't I'm just not going to be fussing with this card. Like I see like think about it like this. If there was Lightning Strike in this set, you could potentially do 9, right? If you had 5 mana, Howl of the Horde, and a Lightning Strike, you like attack with something and then fire this off. 9 damage spread out.
I feel like
the upside's there.
The problem is the cards that this is good with. I mean, even if Lightning Strike was in the set, realistically,
Which, by the way, it's not.
how many copies could you have in your deck? 3? Like 3 is like the upper bounds of that, right?
That's like a really 2 at most, yeah.
But my deck is already absurd. Why am I messing around with Howl of the Horde and not just putting a creature in my deck?
Right, and it's awkward that it's a sorcery. Like it's not like you can do combat tricks with this in the middle of combat and do it. You have to cast this first and kind of telegraph it.
And unlike a lot of the other fork abilities, you can't piggyback off your opponent's spells. So like, if you draw Howl of the Horde off the top, you have no cards in the hand, you draw Howl of the Horde, it's just a blank.
Just rip it up.
It's so unlikely that you're going to be able to do anything with it, and you can't even do it off your opponent's stuff. I'm not going to play Howl of the Horde unless the Quiet Contemplation deck becomes a thing, and that's quite basically the only way I could ever see myself playing it. I gave it a D-. I think it's very, very bad.
I mean, doesn't Quiet Contemplation require that you cast the spell?
Sure, but I'm saying that is the deck that would be absolutely loaded with instants and sorceries. So there'd be most
I see what you mean. But I mean, the copies don't even trigger it. It's like, you're just not comboing off. What did you give it?
D-.
Yes. I mean, I can't give it an F just because like there is a dream to be lived there somewhere. This next one, Jeering Instigator, which obviously is a goblin. And it is 1 and a white, 1 and a red for a goblin rogue at rare. It's a 2/1 with morph. And the morph cost is 2 and a red.
So you can play it as a 2-mana 2/1, or you can morph it.
Or you can morph it to make it a 2/2 for 3. When it's turned face up, if it's your turn, gain control of another target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste.
So very importantly, can only be done on your turn, so you can't steal their attacker and block the other thing. So that downgrades it from Ray of Command into Threaten or Active Treason, as I guess it's in this set.
Yeah. It's still powerful.
I really like having Active Treason in aggressive decks, And this is sweet because it allows you to put active freeze in your deck without having a card that does nothing on defense.
Yeah, I just love that.
Yeah, this is a big upside. Also, I love that it's a 2-mana 2/1. So if it fits your mana curve, you play this there. This is a card that has not like ridiculous upside, but it just fits so well into what you're trying to do with any type of aggressive deck.
Yeah.
I think it's quite good.
I do too. I think it's hard to remember, to underestimate how powerful it is to be able to play this on 3 as a morph, get in some damage, and then when the time is right, flip it up and steal a guy. When you have Active Treason in your deck, which people do run, that does no damage on its own. None.
Right.
0. Like, you can't do anything with that Active Treason until the turn that you cast it. This is the exact same thing, except for that you get to beat down with it for a while first. It's so much better than Active Treason. I think this card is just 2 playable, 2 C's in 1 card, basically.
Which is great. It's a
Which is
2-for-1.
fantastic. Yes. It's great.
And it shouldn't be understated how powerful Active Treason effects can be in aggressive decks. It just makes it so hard for your opponent to stabilize the game, because as soon as they play that great blocker, you take it, attacking them with it, their life total is just like dwindling.
Yep. I think this guy's going to be a really good card and a high pick for the aggressive decks, especially Mardu. That said, I wasn't willing to go ridiculous with it. I gave it a B+. I think it's really solid overall, but like, its peak isn't that high, so I didn't go into the A range for it, but I was like B+, I gave it a B+.
Yeah, I gave the Instigator a B. It just has so little downside, and it's just really solid.
Yep. Last red card, Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, first Planeswalker of the set here. 3 red for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. Sarkhan is Mythic, of course. His plus ability is a +1, and he becomes, until end of turn, a legendary 4/4 red dragon creature with flying, indestructible, and haste. And there's reminder text that he doesn't lose loyalty while he's not a planeswalker, that they just stay on there. So basically we have a dragon. He's a 4/4 flying haste dragon for 5. He's got 2 other abilities as well. A -3, which leaves him at a paltry 1 loyalty, but still alive, notably. He deals 4 damage to target creature. That's pretty good. And then if you ultimate him, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your draw step, draw 2 additional cards. So you draw 3, and then at the beginning of your end step, you discard your hand. Which sounds actually fantastic, but I don't care. I think in Limited, you're going to play Sarkhan, and then you're going to survey the board. And if you're going to die within the next 2 turns, you kill something with his -3. And if you're not, then you bash them on the head.
That sounds just about right to me.
Yeah, kick them.
I don't actually see activating the ultimate that much. Frequently, your dragon will be the thing that you want to get, to take you home.
Yeah, also your opponent will just be dead.
Right, that's the thing. It's hard to get that high.
Yeah.
This is great. And I really like that, unlike some planeswalkers, if the game is going really badly for you, at least you can come down and kill something. It's something pretty big with 4 damage.
Yes.
I think that's really good, because a 5 mana deal 4 damage spell is already playable, and that's the worst this card could ever be.
Yeah, the addition, the plan B for Sarkhan is quite good, and plan A is really, really good.
Exactly. So that's
I'm a big fan. Yeah, I love it.
Basically no downside. That
yeah,
sounds great.
I don't think that it fits the normal bill of a planeswalker where like this feels a lot more like a creature to me, or like sort of a combination of just regular spells, where a lot of times a planeswalker Unlimited feels like a completely game warping kind of this, we're playing a different game of Magic now. And I think Sarkhan doesn't quite fit that same description. He just seems like a hyper efficient creature, or like an interesting removal spell. But still, like, I think he's really strong for Limited, and I gave him an A.
I gave it an A too. You come down, you hit them for 4 damage, and you're up to 5 loyalty.
Yes.
What a joke.
Yeah. I mean, the downside, of course, being that they can, like normally we would say, well, now they can't race or whatever. But they can actually, it's like you were talking about Hearthstone. He becomes a creature that can be attacked, basically.
Yeah.
And also blocked for. Red looks pretty strong to me.
Pretty balmy.
Why don't we move on to green, though? Hardened Scales is the first one. What does that do?
This is an enchantment for a single green mana. It's a rare. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be placed on a creature you control, put that many +1/+1 counters on it instead. So basically, it's like if you would get 1 counter, you get 2. If you would get 2, you get 3. If you would get 3, you get 4. You don't double the number of counters. I've seen people misinterpret that.
Right. I
So-
am out.
100% out? Or?
No, I'm D- out. I'm just going to cut to the chase. I gave it a D-. I decided not to take quite as hard of a stance as I did as the other one, but I put it in the similar camp where it's like, I don't think that this will become a thing. I think it's asking too much of us. I think that you could just do better with a whole bunch of different, mediocre cards. Feels a little win more to me or whatever, but look, I haven't seen it in play. I haven't played with it. So there's definitely a chance that it does more than I thought and can just, take over games that normally wouldn't be able to be taken over. So I'm not going to shut the door on it completely, but I am going to shut it most of the way.
I'd be willing to give Hearted Scales a look in a deck with 7 or more Outlast creatures for sure.
Okay.
Just a look. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that it'll be playable, but as such, I'll give it a D+, but I would say, you're going to know if your deck is going to want it or not. And if you have tons of cards that say +1/+1 counter on it, I would say give it a try and check back with us in a couple of weeks and we'll know if it's worth it or not. But obviously it doesn't do anything on its own, and you always have to be very careful about those types of cards.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that there's going to be decks very often that have that many ways to get +1/+1 counters thrown around, especially considering that it doesn't do it itself. Hooded Hydra is a mythic rare. It's green X for a 0/0, but it enters a battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So if we do a little 20-second timeout here, that's actually not very good, right? Like, pretty inefficient. It's a 1/1 for 3, 2/2 for 4. I mean, like, at what point does this start to sound appealing to you? I can keep going, but 3/3 for 5 in green for double, like, this isn't very good.
Yes, it's not efficient on any part of the scale so far.
Okay. Now there's more, though. It's got, I'll skip. It's got Morph for 3 GG. So 5 mana Morph. And when it's turned face up, you get 5 counters on it.
Okay, so that's a much easier way to get to a 5/5 rather than spending 7 mana to hardcast
right.
it.
And then it's got a really cool side ability too. When it dies, you get a 1/1 green snake creature token onto the battlefield for each +1/+1 counter it had on it.
Ooh.
So the line for this is clearly play it as a morph, flip it up, right? I mean, it's not going to be very often that you're going to actually want to just pay.
No, only in fairly dire situations or very late in the game.
Yeah. I mean, because if you play it as a morph, it's a 2/2 for 3. Like, you have to pay 4 mana just to get that just on its surface. Like, that's bad.
Right. And, considering how playable I think most morphs that grow are already, this is a really sweet one because you're already getting the 5/5 for 5, which is about the best you can do. And getting that additional bonus on if it dies, you get 5 1/1s. That's quite good.
Yes.
Now you said like the hard cast doesn't seem that great, but let's say you're just absolutely getting toasted, like your opponent's just like breathing down your neck, you're a little light on lands. A Hooded Hydra for 2 as a 2/2 that when it dies you get 2 1/1s. I'm not saying that's a good card. I'm just saying that's an okay card, and actually you would do that a fair amount of the time.
Okay.
If you're just getting, you're just getting throttled, it's actually a fair amount of blockers, either X = 2 or X = 3. Not unreasonable.
Yeah. I like Hooded Hydra a lot. I like the flexibility. I like the resilience. I gave it an A-, just because, like, I don't think it really fits the true bomb, category, all that well, but, all of the things add up to me to being just a very strong card.
Yeah, I kept Hooded Hydra slightly out of the A range. I gave it a B+.
Okay.
And my main thing against it is that, it's very chump blockable. It doesn't get that much bigger than a lot of the other cards in the B range. It only has really that extra upside if it dies. And a lot of times you're just playing a race or they have flyers or whatever it is, and
you won't actually realize that upside at all.
Yeah, I don't think your 5/5 morphs actually die that often.
Okay.
So I mean, it's obviously great in some battles, but I kept it out of the A range.
Okay. This next one's friggin' awesome. Meandering Tower Shell is 3 GG for a 5/9 turtle. This was previewed on Loading Ready Run. It's got Island Walk, being a turtle, and whenever it attacks, you exile it. You return it to the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking at the beginning of the declare attacker step on your next turn.
So basically, it takes the turtle 2 turns to hit your opponent.
Yeah, like you send it, you're like, attack! And it starts lumbering towards the red zone, and it takes a full turn cycle for it to get there.
Right. So
this card is just hilarious.
Really, really flavorful, really cool card.
Yeah. Also, but let's talk about it from the Brian and Marshall perspective here. Sure. It's a 5/9 for 5.
So yeah, first of all, okay,
it's just like the most I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Randomly has Island Walk, very strange. This is just a great blocker. So I mean, obviously, like if you just imagine that it had Defender, there are going to be a lot of matchups where this card is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
just because nothing can attack through it.
Nothing ever.
Right. So how good of an attacker is it? Well, it can only attack for 2.5 damage a turn. That's a little bit awkward. Also, it has there's no calling it back. So once the turtle's in motion, if your opponent, plays
this card
plays like the Bond can or something to give their whole team first strike. Oh, all of a sudden your turtle gets ambushed, or they play a death touch creature. No, come back, turtle.
And he's like, "I'll get him, boss." And
yeah, exactly.
Lumbering in there.
Or a lot of times the situation will change where it's like, "Oh, I wish I had the blocker back instead." So you've already committed. Because it takes it out of blocking for 2 turns, which is a little bit awkward. And another big downside is your opponent active treasons it and then attacks you with it. The turtle comes back on their side forever. It's just their turtle.
This is the dumbest turtle ever.
Right. So the turtle is very treasonous. So
oh man, treasonous turtle.
Which is a little awkward because I think the deck that the Tower Shell is best against is Mardu, where you just want to have like tons of awesome ground blockers.
And now we've seen they have at least 2 ways to steal the turtle.
Yeah, and that's the deck that is most likely to play Active Treason to deal with your turtle and get the huge turtle blowouts on you. That said, I think it's still a very playable card.
I do too. It's not exciting though. I gave it a C+, and I have a feeling it might be a B-, but I'm just a little too concerned about the whole like kind of doesn't really do combat or attacking that well.
Right.
Like what would I play for a 5/9 defender for 5? I would probably put that at like a C. But this one can attack sometimes and has Island Walk, so I bumped it up. I think it's between a C- and a B- and a C+. I gave it a C+.
I gave the Tower Shell a C+, too.
Can I just give it an A? Like, can I?
It's an A on flavor.
Let me have this. Yeah, it's just too awesome.
It's an A on flavor, no doubt.
Yeah. Rattleclaw Mystic. Oh man, this card looks good. I had to figure out how it worked, and then after I did, I was like, oh. So it's 1 and a green for a 2/1 human shaman, which is pretty okay. Well, actually, it's not that good. But it taps to add either green, blue, or red mana, which is great. I mean, we're talking about mana fixing and ramp in a format that looks to be a little slowish and is a multicolored format. So Rattleclaw Mystic looks good off the bat. But here's the cool part. It's got morph. So you can pay it face down, and then you can turn it face up for 2 colorless. So you've only invested colorless mana into this creature so far. When it's turned face up, you just get to add blue, green, red to your mana pool. You just get that.
All 3, you get 3 mana.
Yeah, 3 mana, and you've only paid 2 mana into it. Right. And it taps for mana.
Right. So essentially, if you morph the Mystic on turn 3, on turn 4, assuming you play a 4th land, you can spend 2 to unmorph it. Now
netting your mana.
Exactly. So you have the 2 extra lands you have in play, the 3 mana you get for turning it face up, and the 1 for tapping it. So you can get up to 6 mana on turn 4 and start to do some pretty cool stuff.
That's incredible.
That is pretty sweet. You might even just drop 2 more morphs, or like who knows? But this is pretty explosive, no doubt. And I like the fact that it unmorphs for colorless mana. So even if you don't draw green, you can still do it. I've seen people play the Mystic in decks that weren't even green at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I think this card just seems great to me. And now in limited, I think it feels a little more constructed-y to me, though. I'm not really sure where to rate it in limited. I think that where I look on the card is the tap to add, the different colors of mana and how important the ramp plus fixing is in a card like this. And I'm not quite sure yet, but I like it. I think it's really strong.
Yeah, and it's nice to get to that. To get up to that, 5, 6, 7 mana to start unmorphing into huge stuff a little bit earlier. That's important. And I also think just playing this on turn 2 as a mana dork is pretty strong as well. Especially, I know it's basically looks like a teamer card. You could play it in any deck with green, obviously. But where you just start getting fatties earlier in the game, it's really hard to come back from that for your opponent. So I gave the Rattleclaw Mystic a B. I don't think it's a bomb. I think it's quite good and just does something that you can't get anywhere else other than the banners. There's not really mana acceleration.
Yeah, I was waffling between B- and B, but I'm going with my gut and giving it a B as well, just because I think that fixing is super huge. And I think that there's not going to be that many different ways to ramp stuff out. And if you get to be a full turn ahead or even 2 turns ahead on that for that one turn, I think you can maybe just overwhelm your opponent. Mm-hmm. Next is See the Unwritten. This is, we're calling this the new Tooth and Nail, which is a little aggressive, but it's still sweet. It's a 4 GG, so 6 mana for a sorcery at Mythic Rare. Reveal the top 8 cards of your library. Put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Bang! And the rest go in your graveyard, not on the bottom. And it's got Ferocious. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you get to get another creature. So you get 2 of the top 8 directly onto the battlefield. No mana cost paid for those or anything. You just slam them.
It's pretty cool because and it makes it really good on a stalled board. Like so,
8
normally
cards too.
Normally, any 6-drop you play is usually going to have a pretty big impact on the game of limited. Otherwise, why are you putting it in your deck? So you have to compare See the Unwritten to other 6-drops because, in my opinion, that's where it's falling. Right, like that's what it's doing. So
right.
Compare See the Unwritten to Tusked Colossadon or whatever, the 6 mana 6/5. So if your deck, isn't going to get the Ferocious bonus that often, is See the Unwritten better than Tusked Colossadon?
It's probably slightly worse.
It's probably a little bit worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say because I have experience with the card. I played at the pre-release, and I was in Sultai, and dumping the cards in my graveyard was huge, and it dumps a billion of them.
Right.
So there was an upside there too that didn't affect the board, but I would say the average creature that I got, was not as good as a Tusked Colossadon. When I got to get 2 creatures, that was better, but I didn't always get to get that. So, I'd say it's slightly worse on average.
Right. So also, yeah, so there's a lot of factors on how good the See the Unwritten is going to be in your deck. How likely are you to Ferocious? How much do you care about filling up your graveyard? Obviously, this isn't going to accelerate you into anything ridiculous because it's already turn 6, at the soonest, really. But, if you're playing, full on Sultai where you actually have multiple delve spells, you may be able to do some pretty cool turns with this. Honestly, I don't think See the Unwritten is a great card, but I think it's playable.
I'm a big fan. I mean, quick story. So I played this card when I was playing in the pre-release. I had Hooting Mandrills on the battlefield. I found another Hooting Mandrills plus the Abomination of Gadul. Yeah. So I put those on. Then I played an island and I treasure cruised.
Yeah, that's great.
Because See the Unwritten reveals 8 cards from your library. And you put 1 or 2 of them on the battlefield plus so then 6 go to the graveyard plus See the Unwritten, or 7 go to the graveyard plus See the Unwritten. I actually had an empty graveyard and was able to cruise off of just this card. And I got 2 creatures. Mm-hmm. It's insane.
Yeah, I just think it has the inherent weakness of anything that costs 6 or more. And
yeah,
as it seems so far, is the format more defined by multicolor or by morph? It's morph.
It is morph.
You said this in the comment on Comment Show. It's morph. And I think morph typically makes the format fairly fast. It makes blocking a little bit difficult.
You're right. And I had one where I needed to hit 2 creatures, and I was able to get Ferocious, and I whiffed. I hit 1 creature, and it wasn't that great.
Yeah, so I think See the Unwritten's fine. Against a very fast deck, honestly, you could take it out just because 6 is a lot of mana. So, I gave See the Unwritten a C+. I think it's fine, but it has so many factors in how good it's going to be based on your deck and your opponent's deck.
Okay, I gave it a B- because I valued out with it, and it probably tainted my view of it. Trail of Mysteries, our last just green card here. It's weird. It's 1 and a green for an enchantment, and it says whenever a face-down creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. Okay. So essentially when you play a morph, there's a few artifact creatures, but basically when you play a morph, you get to go dig up a land and put it in your hand. Whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, I don't get this card, Brian. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
So basically, this is a build around me. Like I'm playing a ton of morphs.
Morph enabling card, but like in a weird way. Like you're getting all these basics, and then it's like pumping your guys. I don't know. It makes me feel weird.
It makes morph combat pretty scary for your opponent. You know, it's just like they want to block it. So if you play Trail of Mystery on turn 2 and then follow it up with 2 morphs, I could see that being pretty good because all of a sudden turn 5 rolls around, your opponent's blocks are really bad.
Yeah.
You've been able to fix, your mana. You can do Good Duel or Abzan Guide or whatever crazy stuff you're doing. If you play Trail of Mystery on a turn other than turn 2, it's pretty stinky. It's just, if it's not getting you the lands, if it's coming down too slow, if it's taking you off of your curve, not developing your board, I could see that being a pretty big deal. So, I mean, I'm just going to break down. I wouldn't play Trail of Mystery with fewer than 7 morphs. And I think even if you're there, it's at best like a C-.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Trail of Mystery.
No, I don't think it's great.
Yeah, I gave it a D because there has to be enough morphs to make this work. And then it is kind of cool in the sense that when you do have it in play, you play a morph. Now you get the land so that you can eventually unmorph any colors. I like that. But the problem is the times when you don't draw your Trail of Mystery, then you're just playing like actual morphs that you can rarely flip up. That's just awful.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that beats a good draw anyways.
Yeah, just a good deck. Yeah, no, I'm kind of out.
Yeah, I kind of don't think this is what you want to be doing in the format. So yeah, like D plus C minus best case scenario is what I'd say for Trail of Mystery.
All right, let's move over into gold. We've hit now the meat of our discussion, and I want to kind of hit it running and power through here. So let's get into it. Abzan Ascendancy is Abzan mana, so white, black, green for an enchantment, and this is a cycle. They're rares, and you'll see the word Ascendancy attached to the clan name, and they all do something different. So this one is when it enters the battlefield, you get a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you get a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
So this is our first 3-color card. I just want to say that if a 3-color card needs to be played in the early game for it to be good, I'm going to downgrade it relatively, a significant amount. Yes. If the card is good throughout the game and is good on turn 6 or 7, where you're very likely to have the mana by then, I'm not going to downgrade it much. So that's just where I'm going with that. So the Ascendancies, this entire cycle, they kind of vary on how good they are, how much you need to cast them on turn 3 or not. So Abzan Ascendancy is actually an Ascendancy that you actually want to play after you have a few creatures out already to get the 1/1 counter bonus on all of them.
Right. You don't need too many, and it does still have that effect, though, of making your stuff very difficult to kill.
Yep. Assuming you have Outlast Lords, this is going to power up your whole team.
Oh, yeah.
That's real good. And even if they start to deal with your stuff, you get the spirits, it just makes it really hard for them to fight an attrition battle. And you think, well, that's the way they have to attack you to get through this. And that's not any great shakes for them either.
No, I think Abzan Ascendancy is very strong. I think that you have to account for the times when you only have maybe one big creature or just 2 creatures and it's not exactly a blowout.
Right.
But I like it anyway. And I gave it a reasonable, I think I was tempered. I gave it a B. I didn't want to go too deep on it because it doesn't do anything on its own. It does require you to have other creatures, but it doesn't ask that much. Like it just requires that you have 2 to 3 creatures to be pretty great.
Right. I gave the Abzan Ascendancy a B too. Like we're right in lockstep there.
Yeah, I like that card. Next, on Offenza, the Foremost. What does that do?
This is a legendary human soldier, 4/4 for white, black, green.
Now, is this the clan leader for Abzan? Is that what we're talking about here?
I believe she is.
Okay.
And this card has, when on Offenza, the Foremost attacks, put a 1/1 counter on another target tapped creature you control. So that is either another attacking creature you control, because they're going to be tapped, or something you have outlasted with in front of combat.
Or randomly made mana with or something.
Right. So that, a situation where your outlast creature can't attack, you could outlast first. So this card's pretty. Oh, it has one more ability, I guess. If a
Does
creature
it?
card, yeah, if a creature card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Which I don't think has too much of an impact on limited as far as how you would evaluate it.
No.
But, could be relatively useful against Sultai.
I mean, I gotta say, like, while it does suffer from being 3 colors and rarely going to be able to cast on turn 3, I like the fact that it's a 4/4 for 3 mana, where, well, let's say it takes you to your 5th land drop to be able to cast it. You don't feel embarrassed about casting a 4/4 for 5 with upside, 4/4 on, when you would cast a 5-drop with upside as well.
No, still pretty good.
Yeah,
but
pretty solid.
If you mize out and you just get to your third color on turn 3, it's going to be the biggest thing in play by a wide margin.
Yeah, and you will do that some percentage of the time. I think our point is just that you shouldn't assume that you're going to.
No.
I like On Offensive quite a bit. I'm not like super stoked on it, but like this just seems like one of those kind of powerful, potent cards that's just like, oh yeah, well they had On Offensive and it did a lot of work. Like it's not one of those take over. A game that you were way behind in and turn it into something that you're winning type cards, but like this is a lot of value.
Yeah, and you'll get the Miser's Win every now and then. So, I mean, if On Offensive cost 2 and a green, I would be in the A range, but because it's 3 colors, hard to cast, I gave it a B+.
Yeah, I gave On Offensive a B, but yeah, maybe I'm not really putting too much stock in the special abilities, and maybe I should be. We'll find out. Ankle Shanker is next. This is a Mardu card. 2 colorless mana and Mardu, so red, white, black, for a 2/2 haste Goblin Berserker at rare. Whenever which is just like, God, that's awful, right? 5 mana, 2/2 haste. It better have a good upside. It turns out it does. Whenever it attacks creatures you control, including it, get first strike and death touch until end of turn.
So blocking is basically futile against Ankle Shanker.
You're chumping.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's like, yeah, you're either chumping or you're putting 3+ creatures in front of the Ankle Shanker. And it's like Ankle Shanker, first strikes 2 of them to death. And if you're lucky, you'll have something left over to kill it. So, I mean, that's like as bad as things can go for you when you attack with it. Obviously, it has to be on an aggressive board. It's really lame blocker because it doesn't have first strike or death touch on defense. So it's a 5 mana 2/2 on defense.
Right.
That said, it's in Mardu. You want to be attacking anyways. I think your opponent usually has 1 turn to find the answer to Ankle Shanker. Otherwise, they just have very little hope.
Now, the thing I want to mention here, though, is that, like, think of it in these terms. What if it just said, when it attacks, it and all other attacking creatures get unblockable until end of turn? Okay, you'd think like, wow, that's pretty strong. And this isn't quite that good, but it's in the same ballpark. Basically they get chump blocked once. But you would also immediately say to yourself, well, wait a minute, what if I wasn't attacking? Mm-hmm. Right now I've spent 5 mana for a 2/2 that doesn't do anything. So I feel like Ankle Shanker is narrow and maybe even narrower than it looks. It has to go in a deck that wants to be attacking. And pretty often too. If it's, if you try to splash for this in your Obzon deck, like you're probably going to be disappointed. I mean, look, it can at some point enable a big attack that maybe you weren't going to get otherwise, but that's just not really where it's going to be at home, I don't think.
So you're saying that keeps it out of the A range for sure.
It absolutely keeps it out of the A range for me. Beyond just the, it wants to be in an aggressive deck. Aggressive decks also fall behind where they can't attack, and now you're just miserable.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, if it's a situation where your opponent has stalled the board on you, now you can attack.
Yep, you can. I mean, look, there is upside for sure. It makes it so that if you are able to press that type of advantage, your opponent just basically can't enter combat. Yeah. I do have one question though.
Okay.
Is it a triggered ability then?
I mean, there's no way to get worked with Ankle Shanker. Like, it's not like you attack with everything and then they kill it and then you don't get the bonuses.
Okay,
no.
they will get it. Okay, so they have to let you know beforehand. So that matters too.
Right.
Definitely out of A range for me on Ankle Shanker, but I do like the upside, and I think it you'll see it kill a lot of people. And then there'll be games when it doesn't really do much. I gave it a B-.
I gave Ankle Shanker a B, but I just think it's so good in a winning or a parity situation that I'm willing to go there.
Okay. Avalanche Tusker is a Teamer card, so it's 2 green blue-red for a 6/4 elephant warrior, and when it attacks, target creature defending player controls blocks it this combat if able. Nom, nom, nom.
This thing is a big dude.
I love this card. I just think it's really good. I mean, basically, you get to kill something no matter what with it. If your opponent doesn't happen to have 4 power or like a Death Toucher on the battlefield, they're screwed. Like, you can just keep pounding on them, and they have to come up with a turn where they can play something or 2 somethings that equal up to 4 power. Even then, it's distracting something, and other stuff can get through in the meantime. It works excellent with combat tricks where they're like, well, put my 2 3/3s on it, I guess, and then you play the +3/+3 until end of turn and just destroy them. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of upside and not a lot of down. A 6/4 for 5 mana is perfectly fine on the vanilla test. It's actually quite good, assuming that you can actually cast it. I like Avalanche Tusker a lot, and I gave it a B. Like, I could see myself giving it a B+, but I decided to be a little conservative and give it a B.
I was scared that you were going to give it a really high grade based on what you said. I gave it a B too. I mean, 4 toughness for 5 mana. Honestly, that's not insane.
Especially because it's 3 different colors of mana too, right?
Right. And I'm not even sure Avalanche Tusker is better than Bear Companion. I mean,
yeah, but I love Bear Companion.
Sure. Avalanche Tusker is a good card, but 4 toughness for your 5 mana isn't ahead of the curve.
I just feel like any combat trick, bounce spell removal makes this card really, really good too, because they have to double block in a lot of scenarios. So.
Yeah.
Butcher of the Horde. Now this guy's a house. Why don't you read that one for us?
This is a 5/4 flyer for 1 red, white, black. So 4 mana.
So my question is, what's the downside? How many creatures do I have to feed to it or whatever?
Well, the answer is as many as you want, because you can sacrifice another creature to give Butcher of the Horde Vigilance, Lifelink, or Haste until end of turn. That's ridiculous.
That is stupid.
So you can either... I'm not sure you would give Vigilance too often, but giving Lifelink can really swing races, and giving Haste is a great way to just get this thing going right off the bat. So you can basically turn any creature on your board into a Lava Axe, which is pretty nice. And you can just play a 4 mana 5/4 flyer and ignore the ability altogether, and you already have a great card.
I'm sold.
I don't know what more you could want.
I'm totally in on Butcher of the Horde. I just think this card is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the best non-mythics. It's one of the best rares, one of the best cards in the set, honestly. Only thing to keep it out of solid A was the 3 colors. I give it A-. I think it's excellent.
Yeah, so I actually did give it an A, and the reason is because of Lifelink.
Yeah, that's
like it just like you just need any random anything around, and now your opponent is going to have an incredibly difficult time just killing you on when they're attacking, or if you just start attacking with Butcher of the Horde and giving it Lifelink makes racing. I mean, 5 life swing. It's a 10 life point swing if you hit with it. Mm-hmm. I give it an A. I think it's great. I mean, this is a 4-drop. Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Crackling Doom is next. What about that one?
This is an instant for red, white, black. 3 mana. So it says Crackling Doom deals 2 damage to each opponent. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures he or she controls. So this is not your average edict. Your average edict is going to get their worst creature. Crackling Doom will frequently, or a pretty big majority of the time, get their best creature. So in a way, it's 90% as good as targeted removal, I think. Or
I think it is too. I think so too. And it randomly does 2 damage. Mm-hmm. I think it's really good.
It is sweet. One of the things I like about Crackling Doom is you can cast it off of that Shaman, the 3/3 for 4. If you have the raid bonus, you just get red, white, black.
Oh yeah,
and that's the casting cost.
My guy, what did I give that? Like a B+ or something? Yeah, that guy.
So that's just like a really good tempo play on turn 4. Just kill their morph or whatever it is.
What is that called? Mardu Fire Shrieker or something like that? Anyway, yeah, that's awesome.
War Shrieker?
War Shrieker, yeah.
But this is cool. It's also insurance against morph creatures. If you think, well, what's the worst that could happen? Well, usually their powers are going to get bigger. They flip up. It's going to beat your thing. You Crackling Doom.
Yeah. I also noticed that it makes them sacrifice it. So it gets around another rare we're going to talk about in a while, the 6/6 Hexproof.
Sure.
It's probably their biggest thing, and this is probably one of the only ways to actually just kill that.
Yep. And the 2 damage, especially in a Mardu deck where you're playing aggressive, that's something. I think Crackling Doom is a pretty good kill spell, and I mean, costing 3 colors of mana, I mean, this is worth waiting for, because it unlike other edicts, it doesn't fall off in the late game.
No, I like it. I think it's really good. I gave it a B.
I gave Crackling Doom a B too.
All right. Next is Deflecting Palm, a card I am not going to give a B. Red, white for an instant at rare. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent it. If the damage is prevented, then it deals that much damage to the source's controller.
So Deflecting Palm is really only good if you're racing.
Yes. I'm not a fan of this card at all, Brian.
No.
I'm not saying it's unplayable, but you only get to choose one source, so like one creature or one fireball or whatever. It goes back to the player only, not to other creatures. So this isn't like, what was that X spell or whatever called? The one where you could basically take damage from anywhere and redirect it anywhere.
Yeah, Divine Deflection. I think.
Yeah, Divine Deflection. Like, this is not that card. You will see moments where this is a blowout. You will absolutely see that, where you get people out of nowhere with it. Mm-hmm. And I could definitely see playing it. I'm just not stoked on it. Like, I'm not looking at it like, wow, first pick Deflecting Palm, can't lose,
Right. And so it's like, it doesn't really help you close out a game. However, if you get your opponent down to 3 or 4 life, it's going to be really hard for them to kill you through a Deflecting Palm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it kind of works like Lava X. I mean, obviously, it takes a while to do it because you have to like get the board state into a situation where your opponent actually wants to attack you. But I could see putting this in your deck as a way to deal the final 3 or 4 points of damage.
I think so too. And it is nice in a race. It's really probably one of the best things you can have. The problem, of course, is if you're getting swarmed with tokens or whatever, like it's really not good. Like you're going to end up doing 1.
No, yeah, not good there. And I mean, if you don't have your opponent low on life, dealing damage to them is really not that important.
And preventing damage is rarely worth a card.
Yeah, and I think I'd frequently rather just put another creature or something faster or a better combat trick.
Yeah, because the thing is, this doesn't deal with creatures. Like, you can't protect your creatures. You can't kill their creatures. And that's, we talk about it all the time on the show. It's all about board presence in Limited. Like, it's, where are you at? What do you got for creatures? And this doesn't affect that. So
yeah. So and in general, I'm not a huge fan of cards that only affect my life total and my opponent's life total. And while this is a good version of that, it's still that.
I agree.
So I gave Deflecting Palm a D+. I think it's like my 24th card.
I gave it a D+ also. I could see making it sometimes, but I'm not excited about it. Dune Blast. This one's kind of exciting. Maybe. We'll see. It's 4 and then Obzon, so white, black, green. For a sorcery, it says choose up to 1 creature. Destroy the rest.
So
Away with you.
A selective wrath. This is a pretty powerful spell.
This is sweet. you get to keep 1 creature, and it's going to be the best creature that you have.
Yeah, and unlike other wraths, you don't have to sandbag your best creature. You can just play it out, use it in combat, block with it, attack with it, and all of a sudden, when you do wrath, it still gets to live.
And that turn, right? Like, you clear everything out and then attack.
Right. So in that way, it's like the best falter effect.
It's the best falter effect ever.
That's actually pretty cool. And like you said, like with a lot of wraths, the issue with them is your opponent gets to reload first. Not true on Dune Blast.
No. And in fact, you get to reload now.
Right.
Like, you're preloaded. Yeah, this card's good.
So this is a card worth spending 7 mana on.
I agree. This is a good goal.
I gave Dune Blast a B+.
I also gave it a B+. I'm not willing to go quite up there, but this card's a blowout.
Yeah.
I want to know if this one's a blowout. Flying Crane Technique, one of the coolest names for a card for sure. 3 blue, red, white for an instant. So we have a 6 mana instant. That's weird. Untap all creatures you control. They gain flying and double strike until end of turn.
This is a really weird card.
Really weird.
So normally, if you just say like target creature gains flying, like that's not worth a card. Like untap a creature, that's not worth a card. A creature gains double strike, that's not worth a card. But it's all of your creatures untap, get flying, and double strike. Mm-hmm. I think that's worth a card.
It probably is. It's a lot of mana, but I could see this being a finisher, right? Like You've got random 2/2s floating around that you've used to kind of whittle your opponent's life total down, but now they've gone all Abzan on you and stabilized, and you're just like flying crane technique hits you for 16. And they're like, oh, all right.
Yep. The game doesn't need to be going great for you to kill your opponent with flying crane technique. It just needs to be going okay.
Right.
If you can maintain a couple of creatures in play, you can kill your opponent with it.
Yeah, I think so too. Interesting that it's an instant as well. This feels like a sorcery to me where you're like, up, go. But you can do it on defense. Like you can attack with your guys and then they're like, okay, attack with my 3 big creatures or whatever. And you're like flying crane technique. And all of a sudden you have, remember, double strike means first strike. So you can stack up a bunch of blockers and just eat their guys.
I basically think that that's a way to make it relevant when you're not just dealing your opponent's life total, right? So it's like, oh, yes. I only have a creature and at least I can get a 1-for-1 with it, you know? And honestly, that's not great. You wouldn't put it in your deck necessarily for that, but it's nice that it's a little more flexible than your average falter effect.
Right.
And obviously, if you have a couple of big prowess things, like this is going to kill them. So,
right. Now the downside is when you're way behind, it doesn't get you out, right?
Oh yeah, it's super awkward. Yeah. Like if you like, it's just hard to find the 6 mana in a game where you're getting stuck.
Yeah, but I am not in love with flying crane technique, but I'm in like with it. I think it could do some work.
Yeah, I gave flying crane technique a B. I think it's going to win a lot of games. I think it's going to be a little awkward in a few games.
I gave it a B-. We're in the same ballpark here, though.
Sure.
There's just so many better cards, right? But this one does. It kind of has that same thing that I mentioned with End Hostilities, where it's got this unique effect that's just like the high end is very, very high on. Like, again, flying crane technique is going to win you games that you shouldn't have or couldn't have won otherwise, just like the End Hostilities can.
There's going to be situations where it's like, why is my opponent attacking me? Don't they know they're losing this race? And then the next turn, flying crane technique, you're dead.
Yep.
Like, oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Wow, he just traded 3 damage for 7 damage.
Right.
This guy's an idiot. And then, hi-ya, and you're dead. All right, next one is a house, literally, Ivory Tusk Fortress. It's actually an elephant, but it's carrying a house, and it's 2 white, black, green for a 5/7. So 5 mana for a 5/7 elephant. And it says untap each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it during each other player's untap step.
Oh, this does so much.
Yeah, first and foremost, beat down. I mean, a 5-powered 7 toughness creature for 5 mana.
I think that's already in the B range, even though it's 3 colors.
Yes.
So what do we get? We get the bonus untap our stuff with 1/1 counters on it.
Yeah.
Really good with Outlast. Removes that downside.
I have faced down an Ivory Tusk Fortress with a +1/+1 counter on it, and it was miserable.
What?
Yeah. They used the protection card to put a counter on it.
Oh, I see. When you said face down, I thought you meant morphed.
Sorry.
I was like, that is highly illegal, Marshall.
No, I meant I stared one down and I did not win.
Okay.
It's like, take 5. Cool. Untap it. I'm just like, I can never attack. I can't block it.
Right. So yeah, there are a few ways to give this 1/1 counters. It becomes like an awesome vigilance creature.
Yeah. And it just wrecks with Outlast, right? I mean, that's the deal. You Outlast and then you still get to block with your guys.
Yeah. So whereas that Avalanche Tusker, I like it. It's a B for me, but 4 toughness. This thing has 7 toughness. Like, this is really hard to get off the board. I still don't know exactly where it falls in the grade, whether it's like a B or a B plus.
I gave it a B plus myself.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And it's so good in the Abzan deck, you know, and it's never a bad play.
Right. Next one, Jeskai Ascendancy. So here's another of this Ascendancy cycle. This one, of course, for Jeskai. So blue, red, white. Is what it costs. It's an enchantment, just like all the rest. And it says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, and untap those creatures. So it kind of, gives everything prowess plus. Mm-hmm. And it says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
I have 2 words for you, Marshall. Win more.
Because when winning just isn't enough.
If you're doing things that are good, this card is good. If you aren't doing things that are good, this card does nothing.
Yeah, you're right. God, that's exactly what that is.
And I could see like this tipping like a tight game. However, a lot of things could tip a tight game. and you need to activate this like multiple times to make it better than just whatever other combat trick you would put in your deck in its stead. So I really think it's like, okay, I have like 3 things out and I cast like 3 non-creature spells. Okay, it's significantly better than whatever else I could have done. But outside of that, it's really not.
No, it's not. I'm actually just not a huge fan of this one. Even though it does a lot of things that you'd think I'd like, I'm kind of out on it.
And it's so bad off the top.
Yes.
So bad.
This is the worst. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. Like, compare it to the Abzan Ascendancy that we looked at first, and it's just not even close for me.
Yeah, I mean, like...
I gave it a D.
I gave it a D as well. I mean, it can be powerful, no doubt. It's going to look great sometimes, but it just has so much do-nothing.
I'm starting to think that Jeskai is just the best case scenario mentality clan. Next is Keru Lich Lord, and it's 6 mana for a 4/4. So it's 3 and Sultai. So 3 black, green, blue for a 4/4. Okay. It's got a lot of text. I've actually played with this card. It's a zombie wizard. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, you can pay 2 and a black. If you do, return a creature card at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gets flying, trample, and haste, and you exile it at the beginning of the end step, or if it would leave play.
Mm-hmm. So this is a threat. It's also a blocker. Is it a great threat or is it a great blocker?
No.
Are we just liking the sum of the parts?
I'm not. So I played with it and I liked it. I did not love it.
Okay.
The random part sucks. Like you can't even target what you want to get back. So
I mean, like the goal is we're going to hit something with 3 or 4 power to fly over on them.
Yep, pretty much. I mean,
that's the goal.
Well, so you can also hit value creatures though. For example, I hit the uncommon, the 5 mana uncommon that when it enters the 2/5, when it enters the battlefield, you get to look at the top 4 and get a card.
Yeah.
It didn't happen to be what I wanted to do at that moment since I only had 6 cards in my library, but I could see the combo there. But mainly, yeah, you're just trying to blast in there with 4 powered things and get some extra value. The downside is that you have to do this during your upkeep, so it's awkward. It's a lot of mana. It's 3 mana to do it, and you don't know what you're drawing for the turn yet. Like, you might have drawn something better. I'm not in love with Keru Lich Lord, but I like it. I would play it. I mean, I think it's fine. It's a 4/4 for 6, which is acceptable, but not exciting.
So this is an overcosted creature that can generate some amount of aggression in the air?
I mean, I would actually call it like inevitability.
Okay. Is Keru Lich Lord much better than Venerable Lamassu? And if so, why? Because honestly, the card I just described is Venerable Lamassu.
Yeah.
And except
it
this
is
one
better,
costs some mana and it sometimes deals less damage.
Yeah, like, is it much better? No. Is it better? Yeah.
Not by much.
Not by a lot, no.
I mean, it's different colors and all that stuff, but honestly, like,
you're right. This card is not that great, and I would prefer a more assertive card, generally.
All right. I mean, I think Keru Lich Lord is cool, but I gave it a C.
Yeah, I actually gave it a C- because it's so hard to cast. I agree. I think it's cool, but I just don't think the power level's there.
It might not even be. It might even be worse than a C. It might even be like a D+. Honestly,
it could be. I like the inevitability. I like the fact that like you're stalled out. You can just dump mana into it and try to get some advantage from what you've been doing with your graveyard. But like, there's going to be times you don't have any creatures in your yard. That sucks.
And it's such an overcosted 4/4.
It is. It really is. Mantis Rider is next. Oof, this one's a beater. It's a Jeskai card. It's a rare, and it costs exactly Jeskai, so blue, red, white for a 3/3 human monk that has flying, vigilance, and haste.
A red ability, a blue ability, and a white ability.
Yeah, pretty cute, but bang! That thing hits hard and keeps hitting and is nasty.
Really efficient. Pretty good play on any turn of the game, honestly.
Yep.
Never really going to be bad.
Nope. Turn 3, it's devastating, and as it gets a little later, it gets a little less so, but still great.
Still good. You're going to want to top this in almost every situation, I think. I quite like it. I gave Mantis Rider a B+.
I gave it a B+ also. I've had a misfortune of playing against it, and the card is very, very, very difficult to handle. Basically demands removal. Next is Mardu Ascendancy. So here's the Mardu version. So, of course, it's red, white, and black for an enchantment. And it says, whenever a non-token creature, so whenever a real creature you control attacks, you get a 1/1 red goblin creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking.
Oh man, it doubles your strike force.
It kind of does. Ish. And you can sack the Ascendancy itself to give creatures you control +0/+3 until end of turn, which is totally random.
I think
until you remember Anger of the Gods or something. But,
exactly. I think that sacrifice ability will be overlooked. It also just makes it combat really weird for your opponent because
like you can just like attack again, sort of, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, basically, the way that you would, in theory, combat Mardu Ascendancy is, well, it triggers off of non-creature or non-token creatures, right? They're going to want to block to remove as many of them as possible. And frequently that's going to be hard to do. So they put their 3/3 on your 3/3, they put their 2/2 on your 2/2, et cetera, to try to clean up that board as fast as possible to keep it from getting out of control. But they can't make that block because you can sacrifice it to just win combat.
Right.
So it just makes it really weird. Like they may have to like do double blocks or whatever it is. It's so awkward for them to do that because next turn you're going to get even more goblins. They didn't deal with the goblins you already had. And just blocking the goblins instead doesn't really get them anywhere because there's going to be more next turn as well.
Right. Now, flipping this around a little bit, a couple of scenarios to throw at you. One, you don't have many or enough creatures. Yeah. It sucks.
Like if you don't have any good attacks already, you still don't.
You still don't. Another one. Sometimes you have decent attacks that your creatures are going to get through, but then your tokens just get eaten by the creatures that couldn't really block the actual attackers very well, but can block the tokens no problem. So you're not really getting ahead. Yeah. You had a good attack and you still have a good attack, so it doesn't really change that much if the tokens just get gobbled up. Also, if you're behind, I like the fact that let's say you're not able to attack, but you've got Mardu Ascendancy, you do at least get to threaten the +0/+3 in case you do have some good blocks.
Yeah.
That being said, it's still not good when you're behind.
No, it's not great, but at least it has a little bit of fun.
They threw us a bone, and I appreciate that. But let's look at it from a macro perspective. If you're behind, Mardu Ascendancy is not what you want.
No, not a great draw for sure.
No. I didn't give it as high. It feels a little Win Mori to me. Like I've got to come up with some pretty specific scenarios to make this like a great card. That said, like it can get out of hand really quickly. Like you can definitely just run your opponent over. And I could see it being better than like a more for a lot of other 3-drops. But you need to kind of get ahead, stay ahead with it. And it's pretty fragile. I gave it a C because I think it has a good upside, but I think it has a good downside. So I sort of split the difference and put it in the middle.
Yeah, I gave Ascendancy a B-. I also think it's like if you just have 3 things, it kind of has the mode like put 3 goblins into play and like your other creatures can't die this turn.
That's not bad. That's true.
That's not bad.
That's true.
Let's go on to Mind Swipe.
All right, what does that do?
This is an instant for blue, red, X. It's an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X, which is a kind of an awkward counter spell. Like historically,
horrible.
Historically, I played those here and there, but unless they have a lot of upside, they're not really attractive. But it also has Mind Swipe deals X damage to that spell's controller. So this thing can blaze them right out of the game.
It could, yeah. A little inefficient. They have to cast something. They're going to do that.
Right.
God, how much weight do we put on that? Like, if this could hit a creature, I would be totally in. If this was only a counter spell, I would be completely out. Like, already counters are fragile enough and hard enough to play around. This one just gets really awkward. But, man, being able to just rip off, 4 damage in the late game and counter their spell seems like actually quite good.
Yeah, honestly, like, if your deck wanted a Lava Axe, I don't see why you wouldn't just upgrade to Mind Swipe.
It's a little clunky, though. If you want to do 5 damage, you need 7 mana.
Sure, you do. I mean, this is a good way to close out a game, though.
It is. It's interesting.
It's so good if you're ahead. And, I mean, even in lieu of a morph on turn 3, it's not the worst play in the world. You can just counter your opponent's morph.
That's true. And ping them.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, I don't love this card. I think the 2 colored mana plus the X is a little prohibitive. But I do see some upside here, and I think I would give it a shot at least before deciding it wasn't really that great. I
think Mind Swipe might be excellent, but I'm going to temper my expectations.
What did you give it? I need to know this.
I gave Mind Swipe a B-.
Ooh, you went pretty high. I gave it a C.
You might. Honestly, it's hard to say.
It is hard to say. I'm not sure. This is a question mark card for me.
I think the version of this card that gains you life is like C minus, but I think dealing damage to your opponent is significantly better.
Okay.
And this might just close out games. It might not. It'd be interesting to see. Does it even have a home being blue-red? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that one. Next is Narset Enlightened Master. Interesting card here. This is Jeskai's clan leader. It's 3 blue, red, white for a 3/2 first strike hexproof. 6 mana for a 3/2 first strike hexproof. Obviously, there's more text, but how do you feel about that?
Not in love. Hexproof first strike makes a reasonable blocker just because it can't be removed very easily and tussles with most things pretty safely. Does not have flying, by the way, even though she looks like she's flying.
Yeah, she does look like she's flying. All right, so it says, whenever Narset Enlightened Master attacks, exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you can cast non-creature cards exiled with Narset this turn without paying their mana cost. You know, I got really excited because I thought this sounded really sweet. Then I realized that I actually just want to cast creatures. And then I realized that 4 cards is a lot.
4 cards is a lot?
That's 10% of my library.
You can cast all of them, though, not just one.
All of the non-creature cards.
Right. Which is probably 1 or 0.
Either 0 or 1. It's probably like 0.7 or something on average.
Also, it's kind of hard for Narset to attack. Like,
yeah.
You might get 1 use out of it. And even if you hit a rule spell, they can just throw their whole team in front of Narset and take her down.
How does she not have prowess, by the way? Anyway, let's not get into that. But
I think she's all right. Definitely not as bomby as the other clan leaders, in my opinion. Just
I am not that
expensive, pretty small. Like I said, okay blocker.
At some point, you just can't attack anymore.
Yeah.
She just is like, no, you'll just kill yourself. Sorry. I am not big on Narset.
I want to like Narset. I'm definitely going to pick it highly the first time and try it out. Honestly.
Okay. Well, you get back to me. In the meantime, I'm giving Narset a C. I'm sorry, Narset. I wanted to like you too. I like your spear. I like that it looks like you're flying, but you're probably just doing like a karate kick or something. But no, you're a C, Narset.
I'll give Narset a C+. I think she's an okay blocker. Like, you can't use removal on her to get out of the way, and she just stones all those hill giants.
I like you're giving a 3-powered 6-drop bonus points because it's a good blocker. All right, let's take a look at Rakshasa. That name's going to be tough to say. Death Dealer. So Rakshasa is a cat demon at rare that is black-green to cast for a 2/2. Has 2 different activated abilities. They both cost the same, though, black-green. The first one is Rakshasa Death Dealer gets +2/+2. And the other one is Regenerate It.
So this is like one of the best things to play on turn 2. It's so hard to block. It's so hard to deal with. Not that you're going to be just like dumping tons of mana into the early game, into your Death Dealer.
No, but you're going to be hitting for 2 a lot.
You're going to be hitting for 2 a lot. And this card doesn't fall off at all in the late game, honestly.
No, it doesn't.
It either can regenerate against something big, it can still trade with, it can trade up against 4/4s.
If this was an uncommon, I would be like, cool. Like, you know, I don't want to get too stoked on this because it's like efficient and good, but not like take over the game good. I gave it a B.
I gave Death Dealer a B too. Late game. If you draw the right lands, it could be a 4/4 regenerator, which is pretty rough.
That is rough. That is tough for people to attack through, and it's tough for them to block.
There are a lot of 0/5s and stuff in the set, and you can just block a Death Dealer, for a fair amount of the game.
True. All right, let's look at Rakshasa Vizier. So this is 2 black, green, blue for a 4/4. So 5 mana for a 4/4. That's a little more like it, right? Difference between 5 mana and 6 mana. Now, not that this is exciting. We are talking about a triple colored gold card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As it is, I wouldn't put that in my deck just because it costs 3 colors.
Right. But it says whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from your graveyard, put that many +1/+1 counters on Rakshasa Vizier.
It gets so big. It gets not just big. You cast a Treasure Cruise, you can make Vizier like a 10/10.
Yeah, or an 11/11 even.
Right. still gets jump blocked.
Yes.
Still gets returned to your hand. Still dies to a death touch creature.
Yes.
Still can only block one thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that there's clearly a ceiling here that we have to respect.
Right.
I'm not super stoked on this card, but I could never see cutting it from a Sultai deck, for example.
Right. I think the history of cards in this mold is that they're not as good as they look, but still decent.
Yeah. I keep thinking of there's that card from Return to Ravnica where like it gets counters on it. It gives everything scavenge or whatever anyway, and it just ended up being huge, but ultimately like still died to a lot of the removal and was chump blockable and all that.
Right. I gave the Vizier a B-. I think it's, I mean, you want it, but it's not, you don't go out of your way. You're not splashing the Vizier. Like it's still most of the time a 5-mana 4/4, and in the situations where it gets big, that still might not win you the game.
Yeah, I gave it a C+ for the same reasoning. Sage of the Inward Eye is 2 blue, red, white for a 3/4 flying. So again, that's not a home run stats for that. I mean, the 3/4 flyer is great, but we're talking about a 3-colored card here. Like your bar has to be quite high. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn.
So this could gain you a whole bunch of life.
Tons of it. Make racing virtually impossible.
Mm-hmm. Is an okay blocker the turn you play it. I think the Sage of the Inward Eye is one of the better Jeskai rares. Like they kind of feel hit or miss, but this one feels like it's consistently going to impact the game.
I think so too. I mean, the 3/4 flying is probably good enough. You wouldn't be excited about it for that mana cost, but once it's on the table, it's going to do a lot of work, and it's only going to take one non-creature spell cast to make a big life. I mean, even just with this creature, it becomes a 3/4 lifelink flying.
Yeah, good in racing situations. What else is good in racing situations? Evasive creatures, and this is both on one. So, Sage of the Inward Eye, I gave it a B, but honestly, it might even be a sleeper at B. It might have some room to grow.
Yeah, I gave it a B-, but I think that's a little low. I think you're probably more correct.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's a really nice package, even though it looks kind of unassuming.
Right. This next one I think is going to be a pretty nasty bomb in this format. It's called Sagu Mauler, and it's 4 green-blue for a 6/6 trample hexproof beast. And it's got morph.
Oh.
So you can play it, you can unmorph it for 3 green-blue, 5 mana.
Oh, turn 5. I'm getting hit with a 6/6 trample hexproof.
And if they try to remove it, you can sandbag your morph mana and then flip it up to give it hexproof in response. If they block with something like a 2/2, maybe another morph, and you pay the 5 mana, they're taking 4 and losing their morph under almost all circumstances.
So the answer to the question, what's the worst that could happen, is they have Sagu Mauler. That is the worst thing that could happen.
Yes,
it's the worst case scenario morph. Like,
I ask that question all the time, and we have the answer now.
Yeah, this is the answer in case you were wondering, because you might be drawing dead as early as turn 5.
Yeah, and this card's just a huge pain to deal with, both in combat and, of course, with removal. So I think Sagu Mauler is one of the better rares in the set. I think it's going to be a Grown Test top 3 type card when we get to the Sunset show, and I think we're going to have an email or two about people saying, I really like this set, except Sagu Mauler.
The most reliable way to have Ferocious, in case you,
yes, it is.
You need another bonus. I gave Sagu Mauler an A-. I think it's very, very good and going to win a lot of games.
I gave it an A. I value the morph thing a lot.
Oh, it is a crazy good morph. Yeah. Morph on 5.
Yep. This next one, this is my boy. I love this guy. Savage Knuckleblade. Yeah, buddy. So this card is disgusting. It is green, blue, red for a 4/4 Ogre Warrior. And it's got 3 different activated abilities because the 4/4 for 3 just didn't quite hack it. You can pay 2 and a green to give it +2/+2 until end of turn. But wait, you can only do it once. Or you can pay 2 and a blue to return it to its owner's hand, which, I don't anticipate that coming up super often. But when it does, it's going to be really important. Mm-hmm. And then you can also pay red to give it haste.
Back in my day, I played 4 mana for this card and when I activated the abilities, I gave my opponent bonuses. And I had to look at a silly-looking flying hippo. They were like the Feldegriffs. There's a whole family of Feldegriffs, and they are so much worse than Savage Knuckleblade.
Yeah, move over. Savage Knuckleblade, he's ready to eat some hippo for dinner.
But this card is crazy good.
I love this guy.
Oh, it's so efficient.
I just high-five him.
It's actually really good, even in the late game. It arguably gets even more powerful in the late game because it's like becomes like immune to removal and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can give it haste probably and battle, and I just think this card is just one of the most efficient, utility useful creatures that we've seen in a long time. I'm a huge fan.
And the turn 3 Knuckleblade is so hard to beat.
I can't wait to tell that bad beat story.
Oh, it's
obviously he has turn 3 Knuckleblade on the play
with 3 basics.
Yeah, 3 basics.
Right. That's going to happen. I guarantee to me at least once.
Oh, for sure. It might be me.
So, can I go to A- on Knuckleblade?
I went A- on Knuckleblade.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Yes,
especially because it's just like a win on turn 3 a lot of times.
Yes,
but still quite a good draw on turn 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah, but this is an efficiency card. Make no mistake. This is not this isn't one of those cards that like digs you back from being behind. Like it would need to be able to get lifelink or reach or something. So, but yeah, A- on that. Next one is Sidisi, Brood Tyrant. So this is the clan leader for the Sultai, and it's 1 and Sultai. So only 4 mana, 1 black, green, blue for a 3/3. Sure. When it enters a battlefield or attacks, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. This is sounding a little familiar. When 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, you get a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
Yeah, so not just cards put in the graveyard by Sidisi. No. Any way that they go to the graveyard.
From the library.
From the library,
but still, that's insane.
Also, no matter how many creatures you hit, you still only get 1 zombie. So even if you flip over 3 creatures, you still only get 1 zombie. So people have read that wrong too. Be careful about that. But I mean, a lot of times you're just going to play this as a 4 mana 3/3 and get a 2/2 as well. It's like mini Grave Titan.
This card's sweet.
And just the synergy with Delve. It comes down, mills 3. Like you were putting in like relatively bad Delve enablers like the Rakshasa's Secret and the draw 2, lose 2 life card. We're putting in those in our deck. This is so much better than those.
Yeah, it really is.
And it just powers out disgusting turns.
Yeah, and you could have some concern about losing, about decking yourself, but the fact is you're just basically going to be making a 2/2 zombie like when you play it and every time you attack with it, and you're just going to take over the game with those and close it out really quickly. So I don't think it's that big of a concern.
No, a lot of times you can just play it, get a zombie, attack, hopefully get a zombie, cast something huge with Delve, even if your CDC dies in that, trades with something. It's still a fine deal.
Yep.
So can Sidisi make the A range?
I have Sidisi at A-.
Okay, I had her at A- as well.
My thinking is that I would pay 4 mana in these colors for a 3/3 and a 2/2. Mm-hmm. And I think that either on your initial hit or your first swing, you're highly likely to get the 2/2 out of at least one of those, if not both.
Right. I don't think it's necessarily the best splash unless you're also like delving. But
yes,
still, man, this card has, upside up the yin yang. This card can just do the most disgusting things.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
A-.
Oh God, this next card is ridiculous too. How do they make this card? Siege Rhino is 1 white, black, green. It's a 4/5 trample. And when it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. What were they thinking?
It just if you're ahead, it just like drains them out. If you're behind, it gains you life. It's bigger than anything else in play on turn 4.
It's impossible to enter combat with at that stage of the game. It attacks ridiculously well. It blocks ridiculously well. Mm-hmm. This card is just absolutely a complete efficient powerhouse.
Yeah, it's just the epitome of solid. I would give Siege Rhino an A-.
I do too. I just think that this card is going to be. I think it's going to be in standard. I just think this card's ridiculous.
It's the best card in the set. It is blanked by Parapet, Archer's Parapet.
Oh yeah.
That said, it's in the A range for me.
All right, what about Soren? He's back. What is he doing here?
This is a white-black planeswalker. So 2 white-black, 4 mana for a 4 loyalty. And Soren has a +1 of until your next turn, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain lifelink. So that's kind of weird. Until your next turn. So it does work on defense. Actually pretty nice, because the lifelink, if you really need to block, you can do that, I guess. Soren's -2 is put a 2/2 black vampire creature token with flying onto the battlefield. And Soren's ultimate, -6, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. That's probably going to win you the game.
Yes.
If you get there.
Yes. The question is, what's the normal line of play for Soren? I mean, most planeswalkers that make creatures, the normal line of play is play the planeswalker, make a creature. Mm-hmm. Is that the same here?
I mean, if you have a lot of creatures out already, I think you're just plussing it. Or if you have a lot of ways to defend it, I think you're just plussing it in order to get to the ultimate, which only takes 3 turns to do.
Yeah, it comes down on 4, hits 5 immediately, hits 6 the next turn, and the following turn you can ultimate if Soren's untouched.
Right. I mean, when are you making the vampire? I'd probably make the vampire if it's like, I think I can defend it, but I'm not that confident, and I just want to get a little bit of value. Maybe I do that.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like, well, I don't have any other creatures in play, I'm just going to do this. But I think Soren is just, what it mainly is a really, really strong ultimate threatener, where it just makes your opponent make really bad attacks. They're attacking into you when you have +1/+0 and lifelink. And even if they eventually kill Soren, you've gotten so many resources out of them from having to, like, make chump attacks, attack with stuff that doesn't want to be attacking, and then you're gaining all this life. It just feels like it's going to gain you a lot of advantage going forward. And I think they have to kill it, and they have 3 turns to do so. I think that's mainly what Soren is a big ultimate threatener. And historically, those cards are a little bit better than they look. Like Kiora, I guess, would be an example. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, yeah, if you don't kill Kiora, you lose.
That's true.
So I think Soren, if I'm like my pessimistic self, I give it like a B+, but I'm going to give it an A-. I think it's like, they have to kill it. It's not the best at protecting yourself, but they have to kill it, and they don't have long to do so.
Yeah, I gave Soren a B+, but I might be a little low there. I mean, it's still a planeswalker, it still does a lot of work.
You're going to lose a lot of games when they play turn 4 Soren, and
yeah.
It doesn't get you out of a situation where you're just getting totally hosed, though.
Right. Next is the Ascendancy from Sultai, so green, black, blue. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest back on the top of the library in any order. That's it, though.
So
this one does not affect the board.
I'm not sure. I mean, do you want to play Ascendancy on turn 3? Is that the thing you're doing? Is that the ideal Sultai Ascendancy?
Yes.
You just get it down on turn 3. So it might be hard to do that because it costs 3 colors.
Yes, and you might be getting beaten down.
Yeah, a lot of times taking that turn, and also like your next play is frequently another value play, right? It's like, okay, like
yeah. I mean, I think what you're doing is you're investing in your future, right? You're like, well, take a turn off to play the stupid Ascendancy, take a hit. But now all of a sudden I can start playing bigger, better things. I can start smoothing out my draw. I can start finding my bombs, enabling my delve. It's kind of one of those grindy sort of keep moving forward type cards. But it does not have any immediate impact. When you play it, nothing happens. Mm-hmm. You're just like tap 3 unique colors of mana and say go. And that's pretty rough.
Right. You're gonna need some pretty powerful plays to get back in the game based on the tempo you gave up.
Right.
So I gave Sultai Ascendancy a C. I just think it's not going to be a consistent performer. It's hard to use, and if you don't play it in the early game, it might never get back the advantage you gave up. Yeah,
I gave it a C+. I could see it taking over in the mid to late stages of a game as well, even if that's not the ideal stage to cast it. Mm-hmm. And I think it does offer just enough of a unique ability that it's earned a little more, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I've seen some people get a little too excited about it.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like a Scry 2 throughout the late game, which is gonna go a long ways towards finding the cards you want to cast.
Right. This next guy is kind of a beast. He's Serac Dragonclaw. He's the clan leader for Temur. 2 green, blue, red for a 6/6 legendary creature human warrior. He's a mythic rare. And are you ready for a laundry list of special abilities, including wearing a shirt made out of a bear's head that has been cut in half, which somehow didn't make the cut on the flavor text. But he's got flash.
Okay.
He cannot be countered.
All right.
So flash, super cool and very important, and cannot be countered, much less so in limited. But there's more. Creature spells you control can't be countered.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah, shrug. Other creatures you control have trample.
So why doesn't he have trample?
Wait, he doesn't have trample, does he?
No, that's weird.
I know why, because they ran out of room. He's got 4 abilities. In order, I think that flash is the most important, and then other creatures you control have trample, and then the other 2 are about as important as the flavor text.
Exactly. So we just get a huge dumb creature.
For 6, for 5 mana, we get a 6/6.
Yeah.
Huge dumb guy.
Yeah, and Flash is
but
good.
Flash is a big game, man. Like, you're going to be able to get a card off that.
Yeah, it's going to come down and smack something. And just, put the fear into your opponent, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how you play around this necessarily.
Also, I like using it as a combat trick. You attack with your 2 4/4s. They're like, sure, I'll chump block. You're like, flash them in. They have trample.
Yeah, that's not
gotcha.
bad. Yeah.
You could win a game off that. I mean, to me, Serac is sort of just your standard issue, big, dumb bomb. Like, I think it's great. I think you're going to be able to get a card out of it some percentage of the time. I think it's going to take over the board some percentage of the time. He's relatively easy to cast at 5 mana. In this set, of course, having 3 different colors by the time you hit 5 mana is not impossible by any stretch. You won't have it every time, but you'll have it enough of the time. I just think he's great. I gave him an A-. Like, the reason why I was actually had him in the B range, but then I remembered, like, flash means that they attack with their Siege Rhino and you go Serac block. Like, you can kill legit cards with Serac and then crack back on them with it. And that was when they attacked, they had no idea any of it was happening. So I bumped him up to A-.
And it can basically come down and block any morph on turn 5. Like any other turn 5 morphs are going to lose to Serac.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't really have that much to add to it. I think it's right on the B plus A- range. I'll give it an A- as well.
All right. Teamer Ascendancy. So here's the Teamer version. It is green, blue, red for, of course, an enchantment. Creatures you control have haste. All right, you've got my attention. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters a battlefield under your control, you may draw a card.
So you really need to play Teamer Ascendancy in the early game.
It has to be in the early game.
If it like falls off exponentially the longer you go.
Yes.
That's a concern.
I want to love you, Teamer Ascendancy. Maybe in Constructed where you can really try to abuse it, but God, I feel like this is asking a lot of us in Limited.
Right. And if your opponent, like, a lot of times, okay, Teamer is a mid-range clan, right? Sometimes it's going to be sometimes it's going to be aggressive, sometimes it's going to be defensive. If you're the control player, I don't think Teamer Ascendancy is very good. If you're the aggro player, I think it's quite good.
Yeah, it's quite good, but even then, you always have to frame these things, right? Like, as the aggro player, is what you want to be doing on turn 3 playing something that doesn't affect the board? Not necessarily. Now, if you can follow it up with something great, then it gets haste, and now you've kind of made that tempo up again. So you can get yourself out from it, but just remember that the Ascendancy itself isn't doing any damage or doing anything. And it's taking up a spot in your deck and in your hand that could be a creature that could attack, or a removal spell to get something out of the way, or a card draw spell, or whatever. And so it needs to really kind of be hitting on all cylinders to justify having in the deck, where you need to be getting advantage from the haste, meaning that you're attacking, and you need to have enough 4-power things where you can, maybe peel a card or 2 off of this over the course of its lifetime on the battlefield.
Yeah, if I don't develop my board on turn 3, frequently my turn 4 play wants to be on defense as it is.
Yeah.
Which is a little odd. So, and also a lot of the stuff with 4 or more power are like morph creatures that like aren't really that good to hard cast. Like they cost 6 or 7, or like it's a little awkward. And there's really not a lot of ways to like reliably do this on turn 4. You have the Alpine Grizzly, I guess that's fine. But outside of that, you have to wait until around turn 5. Really don't like Teamer Ascendancy that much. I think it's going to be really good against like removal heavy control decks because you can just grind them out.
I think so too.
But
like, if I'm not being pressured, I think this card looks really, really good.
Right.
I can pressure them, and if I don't, then every time I draw a random 4-drop, I just start, grinding them out with cards, and that seems really good. But if I'm under heat, this card just drops off dramatically for me. Like I would side it out against Mardu, I think, most of the time.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's like the first card you look to take out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go low on Temur Ascendancy. I'm going to give it like a C-, which I think is kind of in my range for like a card you could main deck, but has a lot of potential as a sideboard card.
Yeah, I gave it a C because I think you'll know when you want to play this card. I think you'll look at it and you'll be like, oh man, I finally found the deck for this. And the other times, it's kind of unplayable.
Yeah.
All right, what does Trap Essence do?
This is an instant for green, blue, red. Counter target creature spell. Put 2+1/+1 counters on up to one target creature. So this is like this is a hard to cast, kind of situational counter, but you get some pretty good value if you actually manage it.
This feels like it's actually designed for limited.
It really does,
right?
Yeah, Trap Essence is not going to be played in constructed.
No, it does what you want to do in limited because you always have a random creature sitting around, and you often want to counter creatures.
Right.
That's kind of funny. I like this card all of a sudden.
And if you randomly get in a situation where you just, Mize into the green, red, blue on turn 3, you just like have a 2-drop and start attacking with it and kind of like dare them to play something. And you get sweet value if you counter a creature.
You do. This is funny. You know how I always complain about when people like look at a crappy card and they're like, well, it's probably good for limited. Even though it's like not. Yeah. They can actually say that about this and be like, yeah, okay, sure. I think it's countering a morph in the picture too, right? That's a morph.
It is.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a weird mana cost. It's hard to cast. I think it's okay.
I think it's okay. I mean, I'm not high picking this card.
No
way am I committing to 3 different colors for Trap Essence.
No, Trap Essence is not the type of card that makes me want to be Temur. So by default, that puts it in the C range. I'll give Trap Essence a C.
Yeah, I gave it a C-. It's just super hard to cast. Like, there's going to be times when you need to counter a creature and you're like, well, don't have green, so it resolves.
Yeah, it's hard to just incidentally keep that up.
Yep. Utter End is next. 2 white-black for an instant that's real simple. Exile target non-land permanent. It's a rare.
Okay, so usually we're killing creatures. Yeah. Occasionally we're killing, a planeswalker or an equipment or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Ascendancy.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just going to evaluate it based on we're killing creatures because that's what it's going to do most of the time.
Yep.
4 mana, kill anything, instant speed.
Exile as well.
Oh, sure. Exile, that could occasionally matter against, other rares or whatever. Good. It's a good card.
Solid, right?
Yeah.
Would never cut this from a deck I could resolve it in.
Nope.
Would consider splashing it for a deck that I needed extra removal in.
Yep.
Not terribly efficient. I wouldn't call it that.
No.
You're spending 4 mana, so it's not like you're getting spending 1 mana to kill a 6-drop or something. But I gave it a B. I just think it's like super rock solid.
I'll go B+ on Utter End.
Okay. Yeah. Unconditional's nice.
Mm-hmm.
This next card is a beating. God, I love this card. Villainous Wealth. And did you hear what BDM calls this?
Ooh, I've heard it.
The best nickname he is a god of coming up with nicknames, and this is just he calls it Nemesis Wave. So good.
Because it's Genesis Wave targeting you.
Targeting your opponent, yeah. So it's black, green, blue, and X. And it's a sorcery that says target opponent exiles the top X cards of his or her library. Stop me when this sounds familiar. You may cast any number of non-land cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana costs.
It's horrible.
I've played it.
It's horrible. Oh, you're horrible.
I did it for 5 and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's so bad for less than 5. It's just
I know.
Half the time you're just not going to hit anything.
I know, because you can't even get their lands.
Yeah, Villainous Wealth is very bad.
I know.
But it's cool.
A+.
It's so bad.
I know. It's really inefficient. It's really clunky. You're rarely getting ahead. Like it has to be like you're a super grindy deck, and this is like your big finish where you get to 10 mana and then blast it off or whatever.
If there were like ways to just generate tons of mana, like Karametra's Acolyte or something like that from Theros, you're like, okay, I could get to like 12 mana, like with it, that wouldn't even be like necessarily a pipe dream, right?
Right.
Then you could be like, okay, maybe as soon as like turn 7, I could make this ridiculous. Villainous Wealth, it's even at X equals 5, 8 total mana, it's not even a slam dunk you're gonna get anything great.
No.
This card's very bad.
Where did you give it?
D-.
You went that low.
I think it's horrible.
I went C-.
Yeah, so you're saying more often than not, if you can cast it, you're putting in your deck.
Yes.
Oh, you're horrible.
I feel like
This card is so unbelievably bad.
I've resolved it for 5. I won that game.
Okay. How many other 8 drops would have won you that?
3 mana color gold 8 drops.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I just didn't have one. This is one I had.
Horrible.
Yeah, no, it's not great. Zergo Helm Smasher. Nemesis wave. So this is the big boss man for the Mardu. 2 red, white, black for a 7 deuce. He's offsuit. Legendary creature, orc warrior at Mythic. It's got haste and must attack each combat if able. And it has indestructible as long as it's your turn. So basically when he's attacking. And whenever a creature dealt damage by Zergo Helm Smasher this turn dies, he gets a counter.
Jeez, this card hits like a truck.
It's a truck. Basically what we have here, like to sum it all up, is it's a 5 mana 7/2 haste indestructible. So you know, and it does have to attack, and you got to keep that in mind. But you're going to be wanting to attack with this. Like it does 7, they chump block it. It becomes an 8 power. They chump block. Like it's just this ticking time. Like they have to respect it at some point. The only way to beat it is to exile it, tap it down, Oblivion Ring it or whatever, or to race it.
Right. I mean, it dies to that 2 mana black common that gives it -2/-2.
Yes, there's a window where you have to take the hit first.
Right. That's
because if you block, then it gets bigger and then it doesn't die to it anymore.
Right. A lot of the red kill spells, can kill it on your own turn after you get hit. Usually you're going to eat that first Zergo hit.
You're just going to get whacked
one way or another.
Yeah. Utter End kills it.
I think this is one of the best cards ever made that has no value on defense.
Yeah. I mean, what happens on defense? You cast it during your second main phase, you block, it dies.
Right.
It does trade up nicely, though.
I mean, the nice thing is if you're losing, this could actually race them. Honestly, like
it really can. I had a game on one of my videos recently where I was way behind racing, but I played Juggernaut, and then just chump block the rest. And he's like, take 5, take 10. And he's like, oh crap.
Right.
And this is bigger than that. So.
Oh, and it has haste.
It has haste. So yeah.
I would put Zergo in the A range.
I do not put him in the A range myself.
Okay, I gave Zergo an A- because it has so little value on defense, but it's the most ridiculous attacker that ever printed.
It is absurd.
It's insane.
I put him at B. I didn't put him quite that high. I figure like sometimes you are going to be racing, and sometimes they just have a burn spell, and they're just like, yeah, kill it. They do have to wait. You're getting your value, at least some of it. I like it a lot, but I didn't put it too high.
I think it's going to win so many games.
I can't wait to play with her against it. I am curious. Okay, so that's going to do it for the gold cards. Let's move over into the home stretch here of the lands and the colorless cards. I will note about the gold cards, they're ridiculous. I mean, when you give the R&D guys the blank slate of this costs 3 different colors of mana, like they're going to, push the boundaries, and they did.
Even with the discounts that I gave, there were still so many A's and B's.
Yes. Even though we purposely notch things down for how hard they are to cast. Altar of the Brood is the first rare artifact. It costs a colorless mana for an artifact. That's it. And it's a rare that says, whenever another permanent enters a battlefield under your control, each opponent puts a top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. No.
F.
I'm giving it an F. Like, you're trying to do a token strategy where you mill them out and randomly help out the Sultai deck. I'm just out. This card is garbage.
Yep. Not good.
Next
not playing it.
Is, I can't wait to, I needed you, Brian. I had this in the pre-release and I couldn't figure it out. Like, I knew what it did, but I couldn't figure out if it could be good. I decided to pull it for a little spoiler there, but here it is. Dragon Throne of Tarkir. So it's 4 colorless mana for a legendary artifact equipment at rare. The equip cost is 3. So right now, I know your ears are perking up and you're like, well, crap, this better be ridiculous, right? I mean, 4 mana to spend, 3 to equip is kind of insane. Equipped creature has Defender, not traditionally a bonus, and you can pay 2 colorless mana and tap it to give other creatures you control trample and +X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. Now, this is how I broke this down, okay?
Okay.
I said, all right, let's think of a real board state here. I've got 3 creatures.
Okay.
I need to now put this on ostensibly my best creature, my highest power creature to maximize on it.
Okay.
All right. That's a little annoying because now it can't attack. So I've basically taken it out of the equation. I also need 4 colorless mana, but then there's a nice little sequence here where you pay 4 on turn 4, but then on turn 5 or on the next turn, you pay 3 to equip and then 2 to activate so you can activate it right away. Now, I figured that at 2, this is already pretty impressive. At 3 or above, it completely dominates with any reasonable board state. Mm-hmm. All of this led me to think that this was too much work and that the downside of taking away my best creature or one of my best attacker out of the equation meant that it put too much pressure on my board state because you also have to layer this all on top of the normal downside to equipment, which is I pay 4 mana, nothing happens. I pay 3 to equip, they bounce my guy. I'm just dead.
Or it's really funny because it's like, if you have it on your creature and they just kill your other creatures, your thing has Defender.
It has Defender and it's stuck on the throne.
Right.
So what's your take on it?
This is the biggest swing and miss card in the set. Like, it's either Overrun, which is one of the best limited cards ever made, or it's like do nothing. It very rarely will do anything between those two.
Okay, so what kind of a deck wants this?
So I could see Dragon Throne just being if my deck has a lot of creatures and isn't very good, this is definitely a way to win a game.
Tokens?
No, could be tokens, or even just like I'm just playing 18 creatures, which happens sometimes. I'm playing 18 creatures, a lot of bears. It's just stuff. If your deck is just stuff, I think Dragon Throne is like definitely a worthy play. I think in a really tight package of a deck, you can probably do better than Dragon Throne. Okay. You know, it's just like I'm just going to play something that's going to get me some more tempo or whatever. But I think the dirtier and worse your deck is, the more you want Dragon Throne.
Okay, ratchet up the variance a bit, but hence ratchet up the power level too.
Absolutely. It's because this is the card with high variance. And what deck wants high variance? Well, the deck that doesn't have enough power.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't run it. I ended up deciding that my decision was sound. But, God, you read that and you're just like, do I even care? Like, if I have 2 creatures and they're getting +3/+3, my opponent's dead in like 2 turns.
Right.
And that's like a pretty conservative dream, right? Like having 3 creatures on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. I could easily have 7.
Right.
And just instantly just be like, bang, 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 you're dead.
Right.
I don't know. I ended up not being a huge fan of it, though, based on my thought processes. And I don't know what to give it.
I have no idea either. When I first saw it, I was like, that card is a ridiculous bomb. And then as I thought about it more, it's like,
thought too,
it's like wow, 9 mana is a lot. And especially when it's like, it's not like unconditional 9 mana. It's like, I could pay the 4, then I could pay the 3. And then it's like, oh, I might never get to pay the 2.
Okay, I'm going to give it a D. And the reason why is because while I recognize the upside, the downside is real. And it's super high risk, like just super, super high risk, huge mana investment. It makes their bounce spells and removal spells like infinitely better than they'd normally be. Like, what happens if you go cast this? They're like, sure. You're like, equip it. They're like, sure. They're like, attack with my 4 guys. You're like, okay, go to blocks. Okay. And they're like, pay 2, tap this. And you're like, in response, kill knock him off the throne with my murderous cut. Like, don't they just get +0/+0?
I actually don't know about that.
Okay.
They might actually get still the bonus based on like last remembered.
Okay.
Whatever.
So we'll have to double check. But the way I read it was that they wouldn't. And it's just like, geez.
If you could give their thing negative power,
you could kill their guys.
It will actually give their team -X, -X.
Yeah. There is that card too.
Yeah, the blinding spray or whatever.
Yeah. Combo.
That'd be pretty funny.
All right, but I gave it a D.
Okay, I'll give Dragon Throne a C-, but I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
I think if your deck is bad, you definitely want it.
Okay. What about Ghost Fireblade?
I think you definitely want it, no matter what.
Okay, read it.
Why? Just trust me. Just
okay.
Just
what about Ugin's Nexus?
Okay, Ghost Fireblade. Haven't we earned their trust, Marshall? Can't we just?
I'll buy it. I'm in. I'm on the Wong. I'm on the Wong plan.
Ghost Fireblade. It's an artifact equipment for 1 mana. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. The equip cost is 3, which is a price I would probably pay.
It's right there, right? Like 4, you're like, no way. 2, you're like, oh, and 3, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like your first +2/+2 is 4 mana, which is like a price you might pay for an enchantment, but you lose the risk of getting the card disadvantage.
Yeah, +2/+2 is good too. That's a big bump.
But Ghostfire Blade has a very relevant ability because it costs 2 less to equip if you are equipping a colorless creature.
Man, so your morphs, you can pay 1 to cast, 1 to equip, and make them 4/4s?
That's really strong.
Why am I ever flipping them over?
I don't know. You'd be crazy to do that. No, but the thing is
but then you just can.
Exactly. It stays equipped, even if the creature's,
Oh my God, this card's great. Exactly. I underrated this. I did not realize this card was that great when I first read it.
It seems like a really good follow-up to, you can if you play Ghostfire Blade on turn 1 or 2, then you morph on turn 3. Turn 4, you can equip and play a different morph. That's really strong.
Yes.
I don't know. I just it applies a lot of pressure. It's not like that overcosted for the amount of power and toughness you get, even on 1 activation. And it just wins long games. Like powerful equipment just wins long games because it makes every creature you draw so much stronger.
Yeah, I like it. This card seems sweet to me.
Yeah,
especially with the morphs. Without the morphs, I think it's borderline. But with morphs being in the format and being such a prevalent thing and limited, I'm in.
Also, just equipment is so powerful because it's like, okay, I didn't have a good attack. They had a 3/3, I had a couple 2/2s. Now you have a good attack.
Yep.
Right. And then maybe you can even move it over on defense. You attack with the thing, they don't block. Now you move it to your other creature, they don't have a good attack. It just makes that board of my 2/2s to your 3/3 from like, this is kind of meh to like, I'm just crushing you.
Yep.
So equipment is great, especially equipment that doesn't cost a ton to move around. I gave Ghostfire Blade a B+. I think it's quite a good card.
I'm going to give it a B, but I love it. Ugin's Nexus. You're weird. It's 5 colorless mana for a legendary artifact. It's a mythic rare. If a player would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. Who cares? If Ugin's Nexus would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield, instead exile it and take an extra turn after this one. So the question is there a scenario in Limited where we can get this thing into the yard from the battlefield?
Sure, you could put Ugin's Nexus and a Shatter into your deck.
And then you 2 for 1 yourself to take an extra turn.
There's no way to make Ugin's Nexus worth it in Limited.
Okay.
There's just that's it. Yeah, if this was like a set where like sacrificing artifacts was like the key theme of the set, this would be okay.
Yeah.
But that is not the theme of Khans of Tarkir. No. As such, you have to jump through many hoops just to get an effect that's Time Walk. And Time Walk is good, but it's not backbreaking. And especially
Time Walk is classically overrated, though.
It absolutely is. So, Ugin's Nexus, you would have to put some real bad cards in your deck to activate it. I'm never going to do that. I would give Ugin's Nexus an F.
F. All right, we have reached the last card. It's actually 5 cards. They are, of course, the fetch lands. One of the main reasons this set is so hyped is because of these fetch lands, and you're going to be opening them and probably taking a bunch of them over the course of the format. So, fetch lands, if you haven't played with them, are lands that you can sacrifice and pay a life to search up one of 2 different types of basic land. So there's Bloodstained Mire, which can get swamps or mountains. There's Flooded Strand, which can get islands or plains. And it goes down the line with blue, black, green, white, and red, green. In Limited, how important are these?
They're mana fixing, where your mana comes into play untapped, which is pretty good because unlike the other mana fixers in the set, if you draw them on a later turn, you don't have to wait a whole turn to get to your 5-drop, to get to your 6-drop, etc. I would put these relatively on par with the comes into play tapped lands, gain you a life. I think they're pretty close.
Except for that they suffer from the same fate that you mentioned during the last show, which is that half of those refuges, as we call them, only can go into one clan, and these share the color types with that half.
Right, so allied colors are worse than enemy colors in Khans because they're less versatile.
Awkward.
So Bloodstained Mire, which gets red or black, can only go in Mardu.
Yep. And right down the line, you can pick those off.
What grade would you give to $20 bill?
Yes, that is the question.
I would give it an A.
I give it an A as well.
Okay.
So I think that's really the main thing is that let's all be realistic here. We know that these are going to be worth money, and unless you're in the top 8 of a PTQ or day 2 of a GP, your F&M or whatever, you're probably going to be taking them. If you're opening them on Magic Online, they won't be worth as much there, but still well worth the pick as far as EV goes. If you don't care about that, I would almost guarantee that you can find a more powerful card in basically every booster you open than one of these.
I would give the fetch lands just on play value a B or a B-.
Oh, that high?
I mean, I like mana fixing in a 3-color set.
No, I do too. And untapped is nice. I was going to say C+, but...
I mean, I think I gave the Refuge Cycle a B, and I think these are pretty close.
Yeah, but what if I told you that you would have to grade the Refuge Cycle in half, colors, half Refuge lands that can go into multiple clans and the other half? Like, would you give the other half a lower grade?
Yeah, it's B-, C+.
Okay. Yeah, I went C+ for these. Okay, that's going to do it. There's all the rares for this set. That was fun. That was nice, not having to do the show in 2 different pieces, and these rares are exciting. I mean, that was one of the most blockbuster set of rares I've ever done a set review show for. There's only a couple that we were kind of like, and everything else was just like A. It's just like these hammers left and right. And I think this format is going to be really exciting as a result.
Oh, there are so many first pickable rares in the set. Although a lot of the 3-color cards could be pretty dicey first picks, I think. So you might want to be careful with that. If you have a really good 1-color card in the pack, you should probably take it over a 3-color card.
Yeah. Prince or Pauper format. With this many bomb rares, it's hard to imagine that it's going to be too pauperly, but it could be.
I think that there is a lot of synergy in the set, and I think that there's a lot of I think aggro decks are very viable. So as such, I don't think you need rares to succeed at Khans of Tarkir.
So Pauper.
I would actually go Pauper, and I think just because the rares can be hard to cast, I think people who go into it with the Prince mentality and are just like, first picking Anafenza and just like sticking with that pick no matter what, could end up with a bad deck half the time and could lose to people to just have more focused, good commons and uncommons.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let's wrap up there. If you guys would like to send us any feedback via email, lr@lrcast.com is where you can do it. You can also get a hold of us on Twitter, which is usually easier for us because it's just like a quicker, way to interact. If your question is can fit in that framework. I am Marshall_LR and Brian is Brian_LR. So yeah, that's a good place to hit us up there. You want to check out the Patreon we talked about earlier. You want to talk about the LR community subreddit, which is really blown up. I'm super excited about that. It just seems like there's some really fun conversations in there, some good information being passed around. And I'm really happy that happened. And to see that it's a community filled with reasonable, cool people too, makes it really happy for, newer people so that they can come in and ask questions and they don't just get torn apart. That's all too common on the internet forums. And I'm really happy to see that. You can find that link and everything on lrcast.com. So go ahead and find it all there. Guys, thanks a lot for hanging out this week. And next week we'll have our first impressions from Khans of Tarkir.
Marshall, I know you filled the position, but hear me out. Consider this my official application for Constructed Resources co-host. What is up, everybody? Blah, blah, blah. CardKingdom.com, strategy. Well, I guess the biggest differences between Constructed and Limited are, in Constructed, you play 60 card decks instead of 40. I usually sleeve my Constructed decks. Well, you try to break the format. Oh, that reminds me of a cool story. When I was in 5th grade, my elementary school put on a 3v3 soccer tournament, and my team won. We totally broke the format by bringing the goalie further up the field and using a triangle formation to create passing lanes. Totally broke the format. We got to miss the rest of class, and the teachers bought us pizza. It was awesome. Oh yeah, that totally reminds me of something else that was awesome. I was the leader of a Counter-Strike clan that was in Calais, which is the highest level of online competition. I was a beast with the AK-47. When I was in college, I got accused of cheating, so I invited the server admin over just to come and watch me play. He was like, "Whoa, you're really good." Oh, also relating to college, did you know I graduated cum laude from the University of Washington? No big deal. I don't try to bring it up unless it's natural. You know who looks good at Au Naturel? Me, I do. I'm into running. Did you know I was a runner? I just did a run yesterday. I run all the time. I find running and being a cum laude graduate from the University of Washington have really helped me in life. I would recommend that to anyone. So as I was saying, one time I won 22 sanctioned matches in a row. And I quit for 3 months after losing to Dripping Dead in match 23. If there wasn't any luck in the game, I would always win. Do you know I had 5 accounts in the Hall of Champions? You know, for the highest rated limited players? Yeah. Even though the Hall of Champions was removed from the client years ago, I caught wind of a MPGO developer doing back-end work remarking, who is this Brian Wong and why does everyone love him so much? Probably one of my greatest achievements. What are my other greatest achievements? Well, let's see. I made the top 8 of PGQ when I was in Soul. I went X&O on day 1 of Grand Prix with no buys, no bombs. I made top 8 of Grand Prix Vancouver. Did you know who else was in that top 8?